Chapter 470. With such a tacit understanding, Li Hongyuan really ran around and showed off in front of his wife. However, he showed off too much. Not only did he fail to attract his wife's admiring eyes, but he almost scared Jingwan to death. According to Jingwan's original design, in addition to being a dedicated top horse racing track, it also had many characteristics of the equestrian club in her previous life. Therefore, it was natural to pay attention to safety. However, when she was really in it and watched her husband show off in different clothes, she realized that some places had been changed beyond recognition by someone. In other words, a lot of things had been added to the original foundation. Not to mention safety, it was simply a synonym for thrill and excitement. Jingwan looked at it and felt her heart was about to jump out. When she came here, she wanted to say that it didn't look like a track at all. However, it turned out that this man didn't want a normal horse race at all. The first time she saw his horsemanship was at the birthday banquet of Great Elder Princess, when she came to the capital the year before last. From the perspective of a pure spectator, she felt that it was thrilling. In addition to the concern that almost everyone had, she was naturally deeply impressed like the others. She sighed that Prince Jin's horsemanship was a little too good. But now, compared with the water cloister, rockery, stones hidden in the water, and the specially designed track in Great Elder Princess's mansion, it was much more complicated. People who didn't have enough psychological endurance would probably cover their eyes 99% of the time, fearing that the rider would have an accident and die on the spot. Jingwan was no longer a pure spectator. The man who was courting death was her husband, the person she cared about most. On the spectator stand, she held the guardrail tightly with a pale face. Even if she was extremely scared, she still stared at him without blinking. Many times she wanted to ask him to stop, but in the end, the words were stuck in her throat. She was afraid that if she spoke, she would distract him and cause an accident, so she bit her lip until it bled. His heart was beating wildly. Li Hongyuan, do you know what you were doing just now? You just don't know how dangerous it was. You could have lost your life if something went wrong. Even if you're unhappy, you can't vent your anger like this. You're not venting your anger. You're courting death. Li Hongyuan scolded Jingwan. What are you doing? You just don't know how dangerous it was. You could have lost your life if something went wrong. Li Hongyuan didn't get a hug from his wife. Instead, he got scolded. He was a little unhappy, but he knew that she was worried. Wan, don't worry. I'm fine. You have to believe me. When something happens, it'll be too late. Jingwan roared. Believe you? Can I believe a horse? Even if you can control a horse to the point where you can control it with your arms and fingers, there are times when people are careless and get hurt. As the saying goes, people make mistakes and horses stumble. What if? Jingwan couldn't continue. Tears fell down her face uncontrollably, and her body trembled involuntarily. Jingwan was a woman with a strong heart. She rarely cried. Even when she was weak, she didn't cry so fiercely. Li Hongyuan couldn't be unhappy. It was the first time he saw her like this. He was at a loss and hurriedly coaxed her. Wan, don't cry. I know I was wrong. I won't do it again, Wan. Jingwan looked at him with tears in her eyes. Wrong? You really know you were wrong? Jingwan wasn't blind. How could she not see that he didn't care about such a dangerous thing? Jingwan really didn't know how a noble prince like him could have such a special hobby. He wasn't like those people in the rebellious stage who were looking for excitement. He always seemed to be confident. Yuan, you're not afraid. You don't think there's anything to be afraid of, but I'm afraid. Do you know that I was almost scared to death by you just now? Put yourself in my shoes. Just now the person on the horse was me, and I was standing next to you. What would you do? What would you do? Li Hongyuan suddenly hugged her tightly. I'm sorry, Wan. I really know I was wrong. Jingwan reached out and hugged his waist. We agreed to grow old together. I don't want some accidents that could have been avoided. I just want to be with you. Even if it's just quietly staying in a small place, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, Wan. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. I swear it won't happen again. Jingwan took a while to calm down. Then, she looked at the field and was unusually displeased. Did the people sent by the Ministry of Works have water in their heads? Tell them to come and tear it down immediately. If they let me see even a little bit of it, prepare to go home and kneel on the washboard. Jingwan was venting her anger on them. She was a woman of the harem. Naturally, she would use the harem's method to deal with them. Since she couldn't do anything to them, she naturally went to their wives. It was just like some of the methods of the living king of hell. Li Hongyuan stood at the side. His hands behind his back unconsciously moved. He didn't need to go home and kneel on the washboard. He could help his wife get it back. He didn't have the self-consciousness that he was the one who implicated her. Muan didn't dare to say anything. Naturally, he would do whatever the princess consort said. Jingwan's gaze was still a little cold. Muan, have you paid for the construction of the horse farm? Replying to princess consort, there is still a part of the money that hasn't been settled with the Ministry of Works. It's probably close to 50,000 taels. Drag it out. If the Ministry of Works comes to ask for money, just tell them directly. This princess consort is unhappy. When I'm happy, then I'll pay. Her own husband couldn't bear to torment her, so naturally, he would torment others. You don't have to pay. It was only a few thousand taels. Li Hongyuan didn't care. Jingwan coolly glanced at him. The living king of hell tactfully shut his mouth. This disaster had already been thrown out. Only a fool would pick it back up. In fact, the Ministry of Works had always liked to build things for Jin Qinhuang. Because Jin Qinhuang was generous and never defaulted, everyone liked it. They were more enthusiastic than building anything for the emperor. After all, whatever the emperor built, it was basically paid from the national treasury. Then it had to go through the Ministry of Revenue. The Ministry of Revenue was a group of misers. They specialized in procrastinating. They didn't like it the most. This time, Jingwan was even more unreasonable. Even though they were taking the blame for Jin Qinhuang, but because it was Jin Qinhuang, there was even less room to reason. Therefore, in the end, they could only pinch their noses and endure, and wait for Jin Qinhuang Fei's anger to subside. A few thousand taels to Li Hongyuan was not a problem at all. But to the people in the Ministry of Works, it was not like that. There were so many craftsmen working. Even though they might not belong to the Ministry of Works, but they still received work from the Ministry of Works. However, Jingwan wasn't a mean person. She wasn't the kind of person who only saw money as a number. She knew suffering. Therefore, this money, even if it was delayed, it wouldn't be delayed for too long. Everyone was well aware of this matter. So to say, when the people in the Ministry of Works found out later, perhaps they would be a little anxious at the beginning. When they recovered, it would be fine. However, they would probably still smile helplessly. Whatever Jin Qinhuang said, they could only do as he said. Jin Qinhuang himself sought death. Jin Qinhuang Fei was angry, but she wanted them. What was this called? Of course, this was a story for later. Let's not talk about it for now. Li Hongyuan pulled Jingwan and gently held her wrist. Do you want to go for a ride? He casually patted his beloved horse. The horse farm is bigger than what you think. If you just walk, it would probably be a little tiring. Jingwan glanced at the BMW that just led its owner around recklessly. This horse seemed to know that its previous mistress was angry because of it. It rubbed against Jingwan's arm in a fawning manner. As a result, before Jingwan could do anything, Li Hongyuan slapped it. My wife, don't rub against me. Jingwan was very speechless. In the end, was it more likely that he was randomly eating vinegar, or did he make the first move to gain the upper hand, by teaching his beloved horse a lesson, so that she wouldn't continue to vent her anger on the horse? However, Jingwan originally didn't want to ride a horse. A certain someone gave her too much of a shock. She clearly didn't do anything, but faintly felt her legs go soft. It was like after seeing something, the person involved didn't do anything, but the bystanders were infected with a psychological shadow. In fact, this kind of thing was very normal. The more you cared about it, the more it was like this. Just because of this small episode, Jingwan seemed to have improved a lot. Li Hongyuan flipped onto the horse, lowered his head and reached out to Jingwan. His gaze was unusually focused and serious, with an indescribable tenderness and sweetness. In the end, Jingwan didn't refuse. She put her hand in his palm, and with his strength, she easily sat in front of him. With a light shake of the reins, the horse started to move. Its speed was only a little faster than a person walking. This horse farm, as Li Hongyuan said, was larger than Jingwan expected. The expanded area was actually completely a leisure area. It could simply become a top leisure club without special services. It was simply a waste not to use it to make money. However, according to a certain someone's wealth, it was not standard to use it to make money. But wouldn't it be more wasteful to just leave it like this? Moreover, even if the two of them came to sit from time to time, it would be too cold and cheerless. So why did a certain someone make this part out? Didn't Wanwan say that we want to make money? Since this place has been demarcated, naturally it is not suitable for us to live in. I don't lack money, but the National Treasury will never complain about having too much money. Li Hongyuan said a little unhurriedly. Jingwan instantly understood. If this place was really developed, it would definitely be very profitable and popular. At that time, the one on the throne would be suspicious again. However, if it was only under their name, it would actually be managed by the emperor's people, and the income would be put into the national treasury. The one on the throne would definitely be very happy. After all, there were so many rich people in the capital, and so many old and young masters threw a lot of money into various squandering dens every day. Now that a part of it was snatched to fill the national treasury, it would be strange if Lu Qingdi was not happy. In such a way, even if someone was jealous and wanted to find fault with them in the future, they would be suppressed by Lu Qingdi in seconds without having to do anything. Why not? They only needed to take a small part of the labor fee. It was not excessive at all, was it? The national treasury would not complain about having too much money, and their private pockets would not. Unknowingly, they had already walked through many places, and at the same time, Jingwan did not know, the horse's speed had already increased. Although it was not as fast as lightning, it was enough to make something fly. After running 2 laps on the racing track, the shadow in Jingwan's heart that had not yet formed had disappeared without a trace. Originally, I wanted to take you to the precious beast's garden to take a look, but it's already late today. We'll go another day. Jingwan leaned on him and lazily responded. On the jolting horse, behind her was a warm chest, by her ear was a soft whisper, and then there was a gentle breeze. This kind of feeling was really so comfortable that it made people want to stay in this moment for a long time. Perhaps it was because he felt Jingwan's mood. Li Hongyuan could not help but slow down, and leisurely drove the BMW towards the villa. Jingwan felt comfortable, and he did not feel bad. At least, the negative emotions had disappeared, and his heart had become calm again. Sure enough, he probably could not leave her in this lifetime. However, he had never thought of resisting and leaving. Back at the villa, Li Hongyuan dismounted and then carried Jingwan down. In the following days, Li Hongyuan and Jingwan seemed to have things to do. What was Li Hongyuan busy with? Wasn't it Jingwan's wedding anniversary? Of course he was busy with this. After all, his EQ was still good. He also knew that this kind of thing could not be completely ignored. Although it was impossible for him to do everything by himself because of his identity, if he gave orders to everything as soon as he opened his mouth, one would know that she would be angry. And he himself did not want to be like this. He felt that one seemed to care a lot. After that, Li Hongyuan also felt that this kind of day was indeed very important. Although he did not know what to do, he followed his heart, and did something that he wanted to do. As for what Jingwan was busy with, Li Hongyuan was not too sure. She seemed to be fiddling with the clothes. She also specially called the musicians from the Wang mansion, and specially arranged a place with many dressing mirrors. When Li Hongyuan asked, Jingwan always smiled and avoided the question. You will know when the time comes. Li Hongyuan did not miss the faint shyness on Jingwan's face. It could be seen that this matter was worth looking forward to. Li Hongyuan chuckled and did not ask any more. His wife had to prepare a surprise. What Jingwan wanted to do was indeed a little shameful, but since she had made up her mind, of course she had to prepare well. The Shaanxi festival on the 3rd of March was also known as Daughter's Day. Of course, those who would participate in this festival would not only be those girls. Last year, because of Jin Qinhuang's wedding, the entire capital's top-ranked girls in Gongzi, scholars and refined guests, naturally did not participate in any activities. This year, what they wanted to do had nothing to do with Jingwan. Since waking up in the morning, Jingwan's entire person was in a state of slight excitement. It was clear that she was looking forward to today. Don't look at how Li Hongyuan was actually an old man based on his actual age. Regarding this kind of matter, he was actually a little apprehensive, afraid that he would not be able to win his wife's favor. But seeing Jingwan's state, he suddenly calmed down. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/11043422. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com mobile edition reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 471. In Jingwan's excitement and Li Hongyuan's indifference, it was time to exercise and eat breakfast. Seeing Li Hongyuan like this, Jingwan felt a little indignant. She wanted to reach out and pinch his face. She felt that she was very silly. It was their wedding anniversary. Was this a personal matter? However, a certain someone still had a doting expression on his face. It was different. At least the feelings he expressed now were more obvious. Jingwan could only withdraw her hand resentfully. She hated being bullied the most. Although if he resisted, she should be miserable. Therefore, no matter what, it was wrong. Jingwan felt even more depressed. Li Hongyuan found it funny. He pulled Jingwan in front of him and stroked her hair. "Let's go." Jingwan's gloominess was swept away, and she was beaming with joy again. Therefore, Jingwan was actually like many women. She was very easy to coax. She didn't care about what to do. What she cared about was who she was with. As long as it was the person in her heart, she would be happy. Knowing that today was a special day for the two masters, whether it was the servants, the guards, or the secret guards, it could be said that everyone was very well behaved. While doing their duty, they tried their best not to disturb the two of them. Therefore, with such masters, they were quite idle, but at the same time, it was not easy to do things. Because when she came last year, she had already explored the entire manor. In Jingwan's opinion, there shouldn't be any changes this year. In the past few days, she was leisurely and didn't want to walk around. Anyway, she had a lot of time. However, when she was brought out by Li Hongyuan today, she realized that this place had also changed a lot. Overall, it might not have changed much, but in the details, it showed a unique style of infinite beauty. March was originally a good season for entering spring. Everything was recovering and flowers were blooming. Because Jingwan liked it, this manor was built in this direction from the beginning. Some things, the living king of hell could do silently. However, there were some things that he naturally wanted to take credit for. Was the living king of hell such a person who blindly did things and didn't express anything? Obviously not. The benefits that he should ask for were absolutely not small, especially if it came from his wife. It was 10 times or 100 times more. It could be said that the entire manor, other than the side courtyard where they lived, was basically filled with all kinds of flowers and trees that could be seen as far as the eye could see. Some were forests, and some were solitary flowers. After careful care, reasonable placement, and mixing with the mountains and rivers, there wouldn't be a situation where too much would make it seem ordinary, and it wouldn't make people lose their artistic conception and become artificial. With Li Hongyuan holding her hand as they strolled, her mood was so good that she could fly. "Ah, these were all done when we went to Jiangnan last year. Isn't the timing just? Wasn't it just right?" When they met again, it was a completely different scenery and a different kind of joy. Could it be that Yuan is going to use the ready-made things prepared last year to send me away? Jingwan pretended to be unhappy, but the smile in her eyes couldn't be concealed. "If that's the case, then I don't need to be busy before." Jingwan smiled until her eyes turned into crescents. She completely let go of her temper and did not care about the rules at all. To put it in a more elegant way, she was like a butterfly flying recklessly among the flowers. Hundreds of flowers bloomed for her, as if waiting for her blessing. Li Hongyuan followed behind unhurriedly. Hundreds of flowers were the most beautiful scenery in her eyes, and she was the only beautiful scenery in his eyes. Then Jingwan finally found something different. On a certain cluster of flowers, there was a small box the size of a palm. Jingwan's eyes flashed slightly. She picked up the box and looked back at Li Hongyuan. Seeing Li Hongyuan's smile, she was sure that this was part of March 3rd. Jingwan opened it with some expectations. The things inside were somewhat beyond Jingwan's expectations. Although she was sure that it wouldn't be ordinary gold and silver jewelry, she was still surprised. There were two little people holding hands. They were carved out of superior mutton fat jade, but the details were decorated with other items such as eyes, mouth, and small belly bands on their bodies. Yes, the two dolls were estimated to be about 1 year old. Jingwan gently covered her mouth, because she could see from the facial features of the dolls that it was clearly her and her husband. Although it was certainly impossible to be exactly the same because it was a small doll, the details were still very obvious. The craftsmanship was quite exquisite and lifelike. Jingwan couldn't put it down. The more she looked at it, the more she liked it. However, Yuan, you are very thick-skinned. You are several years older than me, and you have the nerve to let people carve such dolls. Li Hongyuan stepped forward, and the back of his fingers brushed across Jingwan's face. Because I know I can't, so I used this way to grow up with Wan and grow old hand in hand. Jingwan's heart seemed to be fiercely squeezed. Her eyes were a little red, but her heart was filled with honey. Together? How many dolls like this did Yuan prepare? Li Hongyuan's thumb brushed the corner of Jingwan's eyes, wiping away the faint tears. Wan needs to find them by herself, and see if she can find all of them. If she can find them, there will be a reward. If she can't find them, she will be punished. For such a gift, she had to find all of them even if she had to dig 3 feet into the ground. However, how could it be buried underground? From the position of the first box, it could be seen that the place where the gifts were placed was not hidden. She was afraid that there were too many of them, and it would be difficult to find them all. After all, the place was so big that even the most obvious place could be overlooked. Jingwan was full of fighting spirit. She vowed to find all the things in the dolls. After that, it was no longer a simple appreciation of the scenery. Jingwan began to search for treasures. Because there was no hurry to find them, although it took a long time, it was not tiring. Moreover, tea, snacks, melons, and fruits were prepared. They were either placed on special tables and chairs that were integrated with the surroundings, placed on a rockery, or placed next to a flower pot. Occasionally, there was also wine. In short, they were quite well prepared. Jingwan found the boxes one by one. The sizes of the boxes were the same. The places where these boxes were placed could be among the flowers, on the grass, hanging on the branches of the flowers, or even next to the prepared food. There was indeed no secret place. The shapes of the dolls also began to change. The postures were different, but without exception, it was the two of them. They were very close. From infancy to children to teenagers and then to marriage. The husband and wife in red wedding clothes bowed to each other, snuggled up to each other until middle age, and sat and watched the clouds roll by until old age. Jingwan sorted them from the beginning. The first dozen or so dolls were a little bigger than the previous one, as if they were a year older. The size of the later dolls did not change, but from some details, one could still see the flow of time. The main color of the clothes was also changing. Jingwan touched them one by one. She was really in love. Looking at these jade dolls, it seemed that he really participated in the time when he was not there. The innocent feelings, the inexperience of the first awakening of love, and the gaze of 10,000 mothers. Jingwan's eyes faintly flashed with tears, especially the last one. The background was a coffin. The two of them were holding hands as they stood side by side. Their faces were already gone, but they were still in their luxurious clothes. Even if they were born together and died together, it was still better than this. There were a total of 99 dolls. Yuan, have you found all of them? In Jingwan's view, it should be all of them. Life was not 100% perfect. Even she herself wanted to pursue a long life. Putting the death together at 99 was not to die at 99 years old, but to hold hands from the moment they were born until they fell asleep forever. Li Hongyuan nodded gently. Not only are they all here, But the order of Wanwan is also completely correct. Jingwan could not help but go forward and hug him. She tiptoed and kissed him on the lips. It was just a light kiss. Yuan, I like it very much. Really, I like it very much. Li Hongyuan hugged her. And it's good that you like it. There was nothing better than making his wife like it. Let's go. Someone will take it back in a while. No, this is a gift from you. How can I let others handle it? I'll take it myself. Then what should I do? These were not carved by me personally. But I know that the appearance was definitely drawn by you. The idea was definitely given by you. That's enough. Li Hongyuan gently rubbed the back of Jingwan's neck. He decided to learn how to carve and then personally carve a set for her. Then I'll get someone to send a box over. Let's pack it up and send it back first. As for what to do with it later, we'll talk about it later, okay? Did Yuan approve of other gifts? Jingwan's eyes were bright. That's not the case. But it's our wedding anniversary, it's a whole day. Or is it that without a gift, Wanwan doesn't want to be with me? Prince Jin expressed that he was a little sad. How can that be? I like the gift because it was given by you. Compared to these, even if there's nothing, I still like you. I like you the most in the world. Among men and women, I like you the only one. Jingwan smiled and kissed him. Li Hongyuan could not help but kiss her again and again on the lips. This little mouth is getting sweeter and sweeter. That's all because of Yuan. There was no other way. Who let her man's sweet talk skills be full? Li Hongyuan smiled noncommittally and turned back. Someone come bring the box over. Although there was no response, there was no need to worry. Jingwan retreated from Li Hongyuan's side and carefully put the jade-like carved dolls one by one into the box. When the box was sent over, it was only half-packed. But she did not want to use other people's hands. Even if it was Li Hongyuan, she did not want to help. Finally, all the boxes were put into the box. It was neither too big nor too small, just right. Jingwan understood in her heart. She guessed that this box was used to store these before. When all of them were packed, the weight was not light. However, it was not a problem for Hei Mei. She just knew that this was something that her master cared about very much. So in the process of moving it back, Hei Mei was also very careful. When there was only the husband and wife left. Yuan, you said before that there would be a prize if we found all of them. What is it? Let's go. Li Hongyuan did not say much. Holding Jingwan's hand, he leisurely walked along the winding path. On both sides, there were peach blossoms in full bloom. When the wind blew, the petals fell in riotous profusion, sprinkling on the head and shoulders. At the end of the path, there was a relatively open place. The ground was lush with fragrant grass. On the other side of the relatively gentle slope, there were some unique trees. However, Jingwan's attention was attracted by one of the begonia trees. This begonia tree was a little beyond Jingwan's imagination. Its appearance was like a fan-shaped banyan tree. The branches were luxuriant and the clusters of flowers were as warm as fire. Jingwan looked at it and could not help but speed up her pace. Standing under the begonia tree, she felt that the temperature seemed to be lower. It really felt like under the banyan tree. Jingwan raised her head and could not stop smiling. Her feet kept walking back and forth. Li Hongyuan stood outside and looked at Jingwan. Her whole body was dyed with red clouds. Her gorgeous face was the most beautiful in the world. Yuan, this tree was not here last year. Was it transplanted later? Li Hongyuan walked forward. Yes. In fact, I had already looked for it, but it was too big. It was not easy to move. Even in her previous life, it was not easy to transplant such a large tree, let alone now. Moreover, this begonia tree was growing so well. Jingwan basically did not find any damage. It was enough to show how much manpower and material resources were used. Thinking of this, Jingwan's joy faded a little. Yuan, the people in power are happy but the people are sad. Li Hongyuan couldn't help but laugh. Wanwan really cares about the world. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I won't let what you're worried about happen. It's just a begonia. I'm just a grand prince with no power or influence. No one will deliberately try to curry favor with me. If there's a need, I'll send my own people. Today is our wedding anniversary. Don't think so much. He gently scratched the tip of her nose. That's good. Because the people in power like something, the people below them would do their best to find it. They would use any means necessary to make a living. This kind of thing, whether it was in the history before Qiyuan, or in Jingwan's previous life, had happened many times. On the other side, Jingwan saw a swing hanging from the begonia tree. It was decorated with all kinds of flowers. When Jingwan walked closer, she saw that it was all silk flowers. To be able to make it so realistic, it was probably the masterpiece of the maids beside her. Jingwan sat on it. Without Jingwan saying anything, Li Hongyuan went forward and used a little force. The swing swung higher and higher, until Jingwan could reach out and touch the begonia flowers. Jingwan's laughter could be heard. Occasionally she would call out, "Ah Yuan," and ask him to push it higher. Li Hongyuan pushed the swing with one hand behind his back. He was not impatient at all. He was very good as a guardian. Wan, be careful. Sit tight and don't fall. Jingwan looked at him sideways. "Ah Yuan, you are here. I believe you won't let me fall." A few days ago, who told me that people can make mistakes and horses can stumble? Okay, I know. I will be careful. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/110835888. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bikugo mobile reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 472. At this moment, Jingwan did not know that there were guests at the farmstead, and there was more than one of them. The guests were watching them from a distance, watching the couple laughing and fooling around. They were so intimate. It seems like we came at the wrong time today. Today, Sun Yijia, who was wearing beautiful peach blossom makeup, had a light smile on her face. She had a relaxed posture as she wrapped the handkerchief around her finger, slowly loosening it and wrapping it around her finger again. But it seems like this trip was not in vain. Yuan Xiaoqiao smiled meaningfully. Yes. Sun Yijia nodded. The second young mistress of the Luo family, Lady Zhao, also smiled lightly. Because she was pregnant, she appeared very gentle and had the motherly instincts of a mother. Moreover, her relationship with Luo Jingming had truly entered the honeymoon stage. After she became pregnant, her husband was very considerate and did not sleep with her. She felt very comfortable and did not have any adverse reactions during pregnancy. She was very nourished. Of course, they were not the only ones who came. Their respective husbands, 3 couples and 6 people, were also there. On the 3rd day of March, they were supposed to go out and have fun. Sun Yijia had received news that Jingwan would not return, so she decided to come and take a look. Yuan Xiaoqiao received the news, so how could she miss it? Then she bumped into Luo Jingming and his wife, so they decided to come together. Since their wives were coming, the 3 men could only risk their lives to accompany them. They had to be prepared to risk their lives in the face of the King of Hell. However, the result was not very timely. Li Hongyuan had previously instructed that unless Emperor Lu Qingdi passed away or Qi Yuan was destroyed, no one was to disturb them without his permission. Obviously, these 2 things could not happen at this time. Now that only the princess consort's family came, of course, they could not report it. However, some things could not be said clearly. In the end, it was Granny Gong who made the decision to bring them over. Yes, they could only watch from afar. Then these 6 people were fiercely shown their affection by Li Hongyuan and Jingwan. After that, the 3 grown men, to varying degrees, received their own wives' gazes. That was like hidden bitterness, like an accusation. Look at Jin Qinwang, then look at you. Why didn't you learn properly? The 3 men felt different degrees of heartache. Prince Jin, who was once a playboy and loved for 7 days, was actually regarded as a role model of a good husband. Even their wives wanted them to learn more? Just the thought of it made one's heart ache. Cousin-in-law, what should we do next? Go back or? Go back. Go back for what? Sun Yijia waved her hand and then looked at Granny Gong with a smile. Granny, we are a little tired from the journey. Can I trouble you to bring a few stools for us to sit and rest for a while? She had made up her mind not to leave for the time being. At this moment, Zhao Shi and Yuan Xiaoqiao were following Sun Yijia's lead, especially Zhao Shi. If she wanted to sit for a while, it was even more above board. Therefore, the three men's opinions were completely ignored. As for Sun Yijia's request, Granny Gong was naturally satisfied because she did not think there was any problem at all. Their place was relatively hidden. They could see Jingwan and the others clearly, but they could not easily see them. Of course, this was only relative to Jingwan. As for whether they could hide from Li Hongyuan, it was hard to say. However, Li Hongyuan was still pushing the swing rhythmically, not moving at all. Not only did Granny Gong ask people to bring stools, she also prepared fruits and tea. From the looks of it, she did not mind at all how long they had to do it. These people had long been used to being tortured by their own two masters. They should let outsiders have a taste. Jingwan was completely unaware that there was a group of onlookers beside her. She was still having fun. As for the 6 people who stayed, they had different thoughts. The 3 women were more or less a little envious, jealous, and hateful in their hearts. Say, how could Jin Qinhuang be such a man? Could it be fake? Even if it was during Jingwan's birthday banquet last time, they had already seen some clues, but they didn't expect that when it was completely in private, it would be to this extent. This was completely a devoted and infatuated type who only had his own wife in his heart. If it was other people, those people who had always been clean and honest, they would definitely be able to easily accept it and even feel that it was natural. However, this person was Jin Qinhuang, so this feeling was completely not on the same level. That's why, Wan Mimi's life is really good. However, this is also how it should be. Wan Mimi is such a good person. If her husband did not treat her well, then he would be guilty of 10,000 deaths. Sun Yijia sighed. The little bit of emotion in her heart also disappeared, and she happily looked on. Luo Jingbo glanced at Sun Yijia, then looked at the maidservants and guards beside her. Each and every one of them acted as if they did not hear anything. He silently chose to shut his mouth, but he secretly prayed in his heart that his wife would not say any more shocking words. Saying that Jin Qinhuang, guilty of 10,000 deaths in front of so many people? Did he really want to die? Even if it was the truth, it could not be said so casually. Sun Yijia seemed to know her husband's thoughts. She turned back to look at him and gave him an elegant supercilious look. What are you afraid of? Their Wang Fei is in front of them. Even if Jin Qinhuang knows, what can he do? That's why you are so fearless. In any case, she was born in Duke Dingfu, which was a 1,000-year-old aristocratic family. She had a first-class upbringing. How did she become such an insolent person? This was the common thought in everyone's mind. Luo Jingbo did not refute his wife because what his wife said was reasonable. The other 2 big men beside him became more and more stifled. They could even foresee their own miserable future. They did not have any desire to eat fruits, tea, or whatever. They were already full from looking at it. That's why they did not realize that they were actually full from being fed dog food. Generally speaking, this kind of scene was definitely self-abuse. Usually, no one would foolishly continue to look at it. However, Sun Yijia stood firm and the other 2 women followed. The rest could only be helpless. Unknowingly, Jingwan stopped and quietly sat on the swing. Her head leaned against the rope at the side, and quietly looked at Li Hongyuan. Because Li Hongyuan unexpectedly took a qin from the begonia tree, and sat on the ground. The qin was placed on his lap and the sentimental music unhurriedly floated out. Many petals also fell on the surrounding grass. The swing stopped, and the falling petals also slowed down. It must be said that the several people who were melon eaters all had a certain level of cultivation in the field of music. After all, this was a compulsory course. Even if they did not know how to play, they still had a basic level of appreciation. Jin Qinhuang's qin skills were simply beyond people's expectations. That song could be said to be soft and tender, expressing the meaning of love. Sun Yijia was unexpectedly silent. Or perhaps at this moment, she was truly relieved of Jingwan. Her attainments in the art of the qin were naturally extraordinary. She was very clear that the difference between a song that was played with pure skills and a song that was played with sincere feelings could be said to be the difference between heaven and earth. Just like now, if Jin Qinhuang did not love Wan Mimi to the extreme, he would absolutely not be able to play such a song. Just by listening to it, it could soften a person's heart, as if she was carefully held in the palm of his hand and placed on top of his heart. At this moment, she finally admitted that Jin Qinhuang was not so annoying. Sun Yijia stood up. It's about time, let's go. You're leaving? Cousin-in-law, wait for the Lantern Festival. Wait until you finish listening to this song before you leave. Sun Yijia laughed. Listen to it before you leave? I'm afraid that after you finish listening, you will dislike someone to death. As she said this, she glanced at Yuan Xiaoxiao's husband with ridicule. The other party was a bit embarrassed, and Yuan Xiaoxiao also reacted. All right, there was also a bit of embarrassment on her face. The three big men were naturally eager to leave. If this continued, it would really not be good. On the way out, Yuan Xiaoxiao returned to her original nature. Everyone says that Jin Qinhuang is worthless. Who would have thought that he would be so powerful? Cousin-in-law, you say, us married women have all been affected. If those people at Wan Mimi's birthday banquet who had thoughts about Jin Qinhuang, what would they do if they heard it? First of all, it's impossible for them to hear it. It's impossible for them to hear a song, let alone one that was played from the heart. Secondly, even if they accidentally heard it, would they have the courage to risk death or injury to throw themselves at it? Sun Yijia sneered. She couldn't even touch the corner of his clothes. Yet she was still thinking about those useless things. Tisk, Sun Yijia was originally a very intelligent woman. She was now very suspicious of Jin Qinhuang's so-called wife jinxing fate. It was hard to say about the previous ones, but were the previous ones really jinxed them? Soon after, Sun Yijia looked at Yuan Xiaoxiao again and reached out to pat her. Some words shouldn't be spoken irresponsibly. In any case, leave some face for your husband. Being affected by another man's zither music or something. Yuan Xiaoxiao's husband's face was indeed a bit gloomy. Yuan Xiaoxiao looked over, unrepentant, and stuck out her tongue at him in a place where other people couldn't see, making funny faces like a child. This man was very clear about his wife's nature. What was there to be gloomy about? His heart was full of helplessness. However, although the women he came into contact with were wrong, there were still quite a few. There were older sisters and younger sisters in the family, as well as older sisters-in-law and the cousins outside. There were very few who had a heart as pure as his wife. Getting along with her was much more comfortable than getting along with other people. Just based on this, he was willing to protect her, pamper her, and tolerate her a little. Luo Jingbua and Luo Jingming, before Yuan Xiaoxiao's marriage, had interacted with this young master of the capital magistrate's family. Their relationship could be considered quite good. At this moment, they both revealed an ambiguous smile. After all, they more or less knew about this younger cousin's temperament. They came and left, but Jingwan didn't know at all. At this moment, she was engrossed in listening to the zither music. Sun Yijia, who was relatively indifferent to Jin Qinhuang, had a soft heart. What about her, who was at the center? What about her, who was the subject of the zither master? Jingwan looked straight at Li Hongyuan's deep eyes, which were filled with the same feelings as the zither music. Jingwan felt that it wouldn't be too much to drink herself to death inside. After Li Hongyuan changed the song, Jingwan softly opened her mouth. Yuan. Li Hongyuan didn't answer, but his eyes showed that he was waiting for her to speak. Change it, my heart can't take it anymore. Her heart was beating a little fast. Li Hongyuan chuckled. Okay. In reality, Jingwan wasn't much different from being drunk right now. Because of her accelerated heartbeat, her face was flushed red, and the corners of her eyes were flushed red like waves of passion. Her eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist. Li Hongyuan saw this and felt that Jingwan, who was under the crabapple tree at this moment, was simply beautiful to the extreme. However, there wasn't any desire in his heart. Regarding this moment of spiritual integration, it was also an extreme enjoyment. After that, Li Hongyuan changed the song, which was more lively and suited the beautiful spring scenery. Jingwan also gradually calmed down. That's right. Her man wasn't useless. He was omnipotent. After another song, Li Hongyuan casually put the zither aside, got up, and walked to Jingwan's side. He reached out to lift her chin and kissed her on the lips. Then he lifted her up and sat on the swing. With one hand holding Jingwan in his arms and the other holding the rope, he touched the ground with one foot. With a slight force, the swing swayed in a small arc with the two of them. Occasionally, petals would fall, and Jingwan would reach out to catch them. Then, she would gently blow at them and watch them float further away. Looking at them, she couldn't help but smile. Occasionally, they would whisper, as if they were reminiscing about the past and looking forward to the future. When it was quiet enough, they began to go crazy everywhere. By the time they returned to the villa, the sun was already setting in the west. That was to say, the two of them went out after breakfast and came back before dinner. Lunch. They ate a lot along the way. How could they be hungry? After all, when they were almost done playing, sitting together to eat something was also a kind of fun. When they had dinner and digested the food, Jingwan knew that Sunny Jia and the others had come. Nanny Gong told her that the prince and princess you didn't see any guests today, so they left after sitting for a while. Jingwan didn't ask any more questions. She didn't want to neglect her relatives and friends. Her wedding anniversary with her husband was more important. After digesting the food, Jingwan began to pack up the biggest gift of the day, which was 90 jade dolls. Jingwan felt that she should prepare a special cabinet of mini treasures. These dolls shouldn't be buried at the bottom of the box, but should be placed in front of her. In the end, when they fell asleep, Li Hongyuan didn't see the surprise prepared by his wife. His eyes flashed, but he didn't ask. He roughly understood that the surprise prepared by his wife was probably a birthday gift for him. However, Li Hongyuan became more and more curious about the fact that she had started to prepare so early. That was true. Wanwan had already said that she would let him arrange everything for today. As for the arrangements, he naturally had to make all the arrangements. Because their hearts and minds were intertwined during the day, their harmony at night would be more harmonious and wonderful. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/11526443. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com mobile edition. Chapter 473. If this went on, the living king of hell would most likely become a fatuous ruler from time to time in the future. However, whether he was a fatuous ruler or not, to Li Hongyuan, it really didn't affect him. In any case, he had already been a tyrant before, but he was very confident. Even if he was a fatuous ruler, as long as he didn't deliberately play around, Qi Yuan's country wouldn't collapse. However, with Jingwan by his side, he wanted to give her the glory and splendor of the Golden Age. How could he go crazy and play around with Qi Yuan's country? In the days that followed, it could be said that the two people didn't pay attention to outside matters, wholeheartedly only accompanying the other person. In addition to half of the time that Jingwan was busy preparing the birthday gift for Li Hongyuan, the other half was the two people holding hands to wind, flower, snow and moon, painting together, growing flowers together, playing, riding horses, and seeing the precious beast's garden that a certain person used all his strength to build. It really was flying in the sky, running on the ground, living in the water. Everything that should be there was there. If this super garden was really known by people, the memorials to impeach Jin Qinhuang would be piled up with Lu Qingdi's imperial case. Jingwan was more or less a bit worried. No matter how much Lu Qingdi favored this son, he was still the emperor. Thinking about the history of her previous life, there was a certain emperor who only built a leopard house. Although other people might have built a tiger city, elephant house, leopard house, pigeon house, deer farm, eagle house and many other places to raise animals, the number was limited and almost turned into dogs. Well, it was said that those were places for pleasure, but they were also labeled as extravagant. Those things, compared to the current precious beasts garden, were completely not on the same level. Li Hongyuan didn't care. The people who went to various places to search for these things were all the ones that I asked for from him. It was completely done in the open. No matter how they impeach, it's just extravagance. Using the crime of extravagance to impeach me is completely meaningless. Who doesn't know that Jin Qinhuang is extravagant by nature? Well, some worries were indeed superfluous. Since a certain person dared to do it, then there definitely wouldn't be any problems. Even if there was a problem, it could definitely be solved. He had no worries at all, and was completely unrestrained. He was having a lot of fun. Of course, Jingwan was determined not to let her brain become numb. From that day onwards, she dealt with some matters every day without fail. Recently, it was relatively peaceful, so Jingwan almost took care of all the matters in Li Hongyuan. If it was someone else, their wife being so motivated, they might think that she was harboring evil intentions. On the contrary, Li Hongyuan was happy and relaxed. While Jingwan was burying her head in hard work, he leisurely took a book, made a cup of tea, or prepared some good wine. While he was at it, he would also order some dishes to go with the wine. Occasionally, he would also ask the musicians to play some soothing tunes outside. Afterwards, he would comfortably half lean back. How could he be so satisfied? Jingwan was gnashing her teeth as she watched. Especially when she encountered more brain-burning matters. She really wanted to strangle him to death. Several times she wanted to go on strike. Why did she have to work herself to death while a certain person was leisurely? These matters were still his matters. However, every time this happened, Li Hongyuan would always coolly look at her. When doing things, you must finish what you started. You can't give up halfway. At the beginning, it was Wanwan herself who asked for it. How can you not do it because it's hard? This husband will comply with you, but this matter is absolutely not allowed. Jingwan wanted to vomit blood. Was she afraid of working too hard? That was not the case at all, okay? It was just that the contrast was too obvious, and she felt seriously unbalanced. Jingwan also sneered. Then please move away, Prince. Don't hinder me here. Look at what Wanwan is saying. First, this husband didn't say anything. Second, I didn't disturb you. How am I hindering you? This husband just saw that Wanwan was working hard, and wanted to be by your side like you always do. Wanwan used to be like this. Wanwan was very happy. I thought that Wanwan would also be happy if this husband did this. Now hearing Wanwan say this husband can't help but feel sad. What did it mean to talk nonsense with a straight face? This was a typical example. However, Jingwan could not give him a taste of his own medicine, because this trick did not work on her at all. If you enjoy it, he will enjoy it with you. You don't have to worry about things being unfinished. This was the difference between them. She could not drive him away or destroy him. Jingwan could only continue to work bitterly and not look at him. Out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of mind. She immersed all her thoughts in the business, and a certain someone's existence was dispensable. Jingwan was serious, so Li Hongyuan stopped reading and just stared at her attentively. After finishing the last task, Jingwan felt a little stiff all over. Before she could move, Li Hongyuan was already standing behind her, gently massaging her shoulders and neck. Jingwan exhaled, grabbed Li Hongyuan's hand, and rubbed it comfortably. Then she realized in hindsight, "Ai, that's not right, Yuan." At that time, I clearly said that no matter how much I was in charge of, I would only be responsible for half. And what's the problem? Li Hongyuan's expression did not change. But these were all handled by me, Jingwan hatefully said. Because only half of them were sent. I have already handled the other half. Li Hongyuan said calmly without blushing or skipping a beat. Jingwan looked up and saw a certain someone smiling lightly. Forget it, she had already seen this face of his. There was no need to expose the fact that her IQ was not as good as his. She got up. I'm tired. Go back to sleep. Today, I need a mama to help me loosen my muscles and bones. Your Highness, you should rest first. Li Hongyuan rubbed his fingers and laughed. Was he being driven out of the room by his wife in disguise? However, the thick-skinned certain someone expressed that, not to mention in disguise, even if it was directly, it was impossible to drive him out. The days were so leisurely and bitter, idle and fulfilling. The 12th of the 3rd month, the death anniversary of the imperial Gui Fei, Jin Qinhuang's birthday. Perhaps because he knew that the imperial Gui Fei was still alive, Luqing Emperor didn't seem to be in an abnormal state this year. However, in some people's eyes he was even more unreasonable. At least for the past few days, Luqing Emperor didn't go to court. All day long, he hugged the portrait of the imperial Gui Fei and mumbled nonsense. He even hoped that the imperial Gui Fei would possess the portrait. Then, the frequency of the two words "you honor" from his mouth became higher and higher. Hearing it made people's hearts tremble. His fear of Li Hongyuan became deeper and deeper, and his killing intent increased day by day. However, it was obvious that he did not dare to act rashly at this time. Because once he was investigated, even if he was not executed on the surface, he might be killed in private. Imperial Gui Fei was also in an unprecedented state of irritation. Although on the surface, she was still considered normal. Thinking about it, she thought that everything was in her hands, but in the end, there was a mistake. Her own son was poisoned by the same poison. Because it was the same thing, she began to be suspicious and thought that it was the imperial Gui Fei's revenge. It was not that she did not have other suspicions, but it was too much of a coincidence. The idea of revenge always prevailed. Thus, no one wanted the imperial Gui Fei's ritual to succeed more than her. Her attitude towards Li Hongyuan also changed fundamentally. However, just like in previous years, she had people prepare a table of food and send it over to Li Hongyuan. However, this year, Imperial Gui Fei was definitely not the only imperial concubine who was thinking about Li Hongyuan. Imperial Gui Fei also had people prepare things in private. In the past, there was no way, but now that the mother and son had recognized each other, how could the Imperial Gui Fei be indifferent? Of course, when Li Hongyuan was in the teeth of the storm, such a behavior would cause trouble if she was not careful. However, Imperial Gui Fei did not refuse. No one knew better than her how torturous it was for the Imperial Gui Fei in her body. In addition, Great Elder Princess and the two elders of the Luo family also sent gifts to Li Hongyuan. As for the table of food, it was casually ordered to be rewarded. It was obvious that Imperial Gui Fei would not be stupid enough to do anything to it. Therefore, Jingwan felt no pressure to reward people. Li Hongyuan glanced at Jingwan and did not say anything. The success rate of taking action was high when others thought that it was impossible to take action. Moreover, this table of food had changed hands several times, and there could be problems at any time. Now there were many people who wanted to take action against him. As his mother, Imperial Gui Fei treated Li Hongyuan well, so she could not be suspected. Moreover, since Imperial Gui Fei could get the sterilization powder, which was usually undetectable, it was hard to guarantee that there would not be a second kind of poison. Of course, it was also possible that there was nothing wrong with any table of food. However, Li Hongyuan was too lazy to care about these things. Now his wife said that she was going to give him a birthday gift. After being mysterious for so long, it was finally time to unveil the veil. Now except for this, he was not interested in anything else at all. There were open-air hot springs behind the main courtyard, and naturally, there were also built bathing pools. The entire bathing pool was very large. Because it was above the hot springs, there was no need for the existence of an earth dragon. At this moment, the surrounding gauze curtains were put down. There was no water in the bathing pool, so it was warm enough and not foggy. A large area next to the bathing pool was originally paved with white marble, but now it was covered with a dark carpet. Li Hongyuan looked at the Arhut bed, which was placed well. There was a small jade table on it, as well as good wine and food. Li Hongyuan gently raised the corners of his mouth and walked over unhurriedly. The Arhut bed was covered with a soft cushion and a big pillow. How could he fail to live up to such good intentions? Li Hongyuan sat down and leaned back, leisurely and languid. He was no longer as strict as before. He pulled at his collar, and a certain aura on his body instantly soared. Li Hongyuan poured a glass of wine, and music sounded in his ears. Directly in front of his eyes, a figure appeared behind the gauze curtain. Judging from the figure, it was his wife. There were two soft sounds outside, and the music in his ears changed. Jingwan's cloak that was tightly wrapped around her body slid down. However, there was still a layer of transparent white gauze on her body. Along with the music, Jingwan placed one hand on her head and the other open. She moved with the dance steps and parted the curtain. Step by step, she stepped forward. Li Hongyuan's eyes narrowed slightly. Although he had expected that it might be related to dancing, when he really saw it, he was still quite surprised, or rather, quite happy. Although the white gauze was wide, because it was transparent, he could see everything inside. A gorgeously decorated tube top? It should be a tube top, but it was like two petals, tightly wrapped around the snowy peaks. Her flexible waist, without a trace of fat, was perfect, and there were jewels on her navel. A palm-wide waist belt wrapped around her crotch, and there was a net-like bead chain outside, which was relatively thin. Inside the belt, there was also a transparent low-waisted white gauze skirt, and inside, the underwear was also clearly visible. Her bare feet, and there was also a chain around her ankle. Because the color of the carpet was dark, the contrast was very obvious, and it was also exceptionally beautiful. Li Hongyuan couldn't help but sit up straight, and his body leaned forward slightly. Although Jingwan and Li Hongyuan couldn't be more intimate, being stared at like this still made her feel a little uncomfortable. However, her body was a great attraction to her husband, and it seemed to be something to be happy about. Therefore Jingwan endured, twirled and danced, and the wide gauze fluttered. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/115264446. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com mobile version reading website, mbicken.com. Chapter 474. Her waist swayed and at a certain point, her veil was lifted, revealing her exquisite makeup. The music suddenly became faster, and Jingwan's waist also followed the rapid swaying. Wearing the accessories on her body, it was exceptionally dazzling. Her feet touched the ground and she gorgeously turned around. She rapidly moved her arms. Only then did they discover that there was a cut at the back of the waistband, and the seam of her buttocks was faintly discernible. Her beautiful hair, after being slightly styled, the ends of her hair just happened to be above the two shallow dimples. The dancing frequency was too fast, as if there were afterimages, making people dizzy. At least, Arjin Qinhuang's eyes became more serene and serene. His mouth was a bit dry and his body seemed to have drunk too much. Feeling a bit hot, he reached out and pulled his collar open a bit more. But in fact, he hadn't even drunk the second cup of wine. Holding it in his hand, the cup was already a bit cracked. Jingwan turned sideways and her gaze fell on Li Hongyuan's body. It seemed that because she had started, it wasn't that difficult to continue. Her dancing body became more relaxed and with a very shallow smile, the amorous light in her eyes, the frequency of the movements at her waist also decreased. Slanting towards Li Hongyuan, the top of her hips turned outwards, circling round and round. Her hand fluttered above her head and then retracted, as if it was not there. It brushed past her own body, chest, waist, and abdomen. Her body continued to turn a few more rounds. The gauze skirt along with the beaded necklace all flew apart. The temptation of the previous moment, at this moment, brought about elegance and gentleness. Following that, Jingwan's waist was like a water snake, swaying back and forth. Naturally, the position under the flower petals on her chest also drew out an obvious arc. With a bang, the wine in Li Hongyuan's hand was finally scrapped. The wine dripped down along with his palm, but he didn't care at all. He casually shook it twice and leaned back, lifting one leg to step on the arhut bed. He raised his hand to support his cheek. Regarding the changes in his body, he didn't conceal it at all. However, the expression on his face didn't change. There was neither forbearance nor pain. When Jingwan first entered the capital, at Dingguagongfu, for some reason, Sun Yijia performed a dance in public. Li Hongyuan's gaze wasn't on Sun Yijia's body. His thoughts were all kinds of drifting, thinking about the scene of Jingwan performing a dance, especially the kind where one piece of clothing was missing. Later, when their relationship became intimate and even married, he forgot about this matter. The effect of today's dance was countless times better than expected. Speaking of which, Li Hongyuan had a rough idea of what Jingwan had learned. Although Jingwan was only 8 or 9 years old when he first sent people to Qian Prefecture, how could a girl from an official's family learn this kind of dance before the age of 8 or 9? No matter when she started learning it, it should be more proper and orthodox, just like Sun Yijia. Then when did Wanwan learn it? The answer was obvious. According to common sense, since she was able to perform this dance for him as a birthday gift, then she definitely wouldn't have learned it under any humiliating circumstances. After all, their hearts were connected. There was no need for her to lower herself and deliberately seek his favor. Moreover, during the entire preparation process, he didn't feel any negative emotions from her. Therefore, she simply wanted to perform it for him to see and add a bit of fun between husband and wife. Thinking about all these, this dance should be quite ordinary for Wanwan in the past. Li Hongyuan secretly clicked his tongue in his heart. He was a little unhappy. His Wanwan might have been seen by someone else. Jingwan didn't know that Li Hongyuan's mind had thought so much in such a short time. She was focused on the rhythm of the music. Towards the end, she became more and more open. Like flowing water, like waves, like a burning flame. She freely used her body to express herself. Her arms spread out like wings and her head danced like a snake. She shook her hips and body to her heart's content. Sometimes she was elegant, sometimes charming, sometimes delicate, and sometimes a little arrogant. Her eyes seemed to move along with the mood of the dance. It was very sexy, very seductive, and very provocative. It made people's hearts tremble. The charming special capital was vividly displayed by Jingwan. It was too much for the eyes to take in. In the end, Jingwan's body knelt on the ground. Her body bent backward and stretched to the maximum angle. The curve from her neck to her legs was fully displayed. The music had stopped. Jingwan maintained this posture and looked at Li Hongyuan from the bottom to the top. Because the choreography took a little long, Jingwan's breathing was a little rapid. Her chest was obviously moving up and down. There was also a thin layer of sweat, which seemed to be soft and watery, especially in the position where Li Hongyuan was standing. The cleavage was prominent and indescribably attractive. The evil fire aroused by Jingwan was completely ignited. After the dance, if he could still sit still, he would really be a saint. He suddenly stood up. 3 steps turned into 2 steps. He bent down and hooked his arm. Jingwan followed his strength and stood up. She put one hand on his shoulder and the other on his chest. Li Hongyuan deliberately held her waist very tightly, so that she could clearly feel his body's reaction. Li Hongyuan's other hand started from her cheek and slowly stroked down. Wanwan, are you satisfied with the effect of your dance? Jingwan suddenly laughed. Her hand mischievously touched Li Hongyuan's body. She even raised a leg and wrapped it around his leg. Slowly, she moved it up to his waist. Her breath smelled like orchids. Wangya, are you satisfied? Li Hongyuan's hand paused. Then he held Jingwan's leg and pushed the layer of gauze to the base of her thigh. I've never seen Wanwan so enthusiastic. It seems that in the past, I didn't love Wanwan enough. This time, I will make Wanwan completely satisfied. Wanwan said that she won't get up for a few days, so we won't get up for a few days. Hey, Jingwan's head moved back. Although from the beginning, when she chose, it would definitely lead to this situation. She wanted to tease him, but she had prepared for so long and put in so much effort. Don't just focus on the result and completely ignore the dance. Wangya still hasn't told this concubine. Are you satisfied with this birthday gift? The king of hell didn't lack anything, so it was quite difficult to give him a gift that he was satisfied with. As for why Jingwan knew how to do belly dance, it was all thanks to her mother in her previous life. One day, she was dragged by one of her best friends to learn it on a whim. She said that it could help her lose weight and shape her waist. She didn't know why her mother wanted to dance, but later on, her mother suddenly dragged her to learn it. Jingwan learned it. She was quite talented in it, and because of her good foundation in yoga, she learned it. In the end, she even beat the instructor. After the accident at home, there was a long period of turmoil. Later on, when she settled down, she would occasionally dance. But after she came to this world, she was too young at first. Later on, dancing like this was absolutely offensive to public morals. If people found out, she would be scolded to death. After all, she estimated that even the women in the brothel couldn't dance to this level. Naturally, she was forgotten in a corner. She didn't know why, but when she was thinking about preparing a birthday gift for someone, she didn't know why she remembered it. Although she had been neglected for a long time, but some things once learned would always be remembered. Even when she first picked it up, she spent a lot of time practicing the basic skills. After all, Jingwon wasn't a professional choreographer. If she wanted to find a song that met her requirements and wanted to make a good dance, it was actually a short period of time. After all, she couldn't ask for help. However, who asked those musicians to be so awesome? They had songs that gave her inspiration. After getting through the difficult initial stage, everything went smoothly. However, in the end, it was Jingwon who figured out the choreography by herself. Moreover, she didn't stick to any school. She just showed the essence of belly dance. The other parts were added casually. She just did it as she liked. From the many dressing mirrors, she felt that the effect was quite good. However, it was hard to guarantee how it would look in the eyes of others. Lee Hongyuan naturally understood Jingwon's meaning and affirmed her efforts and results. Very good. Really? Yuan, don't love me for my dog. I have seen a lot of dances. I don't know how many kinds of dances there are. I think that my level of appreciation is still good enough. Jingwon understood. Her eyebrows and eyes curved into a smile, but this smile didn't last for a moment. Oh, her body trembled slightly. She couldn't help but moan. She grabbed Lee Hongyuan's mischievous hand. We can talk about this later. One should continue to send the gifts now. Lee Hongyuan said. He held her neck and kissed her. His other hand became more and more unruly. Jingwon held his neck and catered to his kiss. She was reluctant to part with him. Lee Hongyuan picked up Jingwon and walked to the side of the Arhut bed. He kicked away the jade table with wine. The jade table slid to the edge. The slender wine bottle on top shook and then fell down. The clear wine spilled out. However, the two people at the side didn't care about the wine. Lee Hongyuan was burned by the evil fire and almost lost his reason. He only wanted to tear Jingwon apart and eat her. Jingwon was under his hands and naturally couldn't be distracted. The task was completed. The musicians outside naturally should leave quickly. However, some people dilly-dallied for some unknown purpose. However, Jingwon's maidservants and mamas wouldn't give them a chance. As the musicians of Jin Qin Wang Fu, if they overstepped their duty, they would definitely not have a good ending. No matter how good their skills were or how beautiful they were, it was the same. Although the people around Jingwon didn't know what dance Jingwon was dancing, but Jingwon's clothes were made by them. They didn't know the process, but the final result could be guessed. Therefore, everyone was well aware of what was going on inside. They consciously walked a little further away, and the rest were not allowed to enter. Now was an unusual time. No matter what the reason was for the dawdling musician, Gong Mama expressionlessly greeted Mu Gonggong and told him how to deal with it. Mu Gonggong was an expert in this field, and Jingwon's death-seeking aroused Lee Hongyuan to this point. It was obvious that the pleasure of fish and water would not end so easily. At least, during this period, Lee Hongyuan let Gong Mama come in and change the water in the bath 3 times. And in the whole place, there were many traces of lovemaking. Fortunately, it was more convenient for the bath to be filled with water, and it was easy to clean. Otherwise, changing the water once was not an easy task, let alone one person to do it. Every time Gong Mama came in, she didn't look sideways because she was used to this kind of thing. Jingwon also wouldn't be shy and play dead like at the beginning. At most, she would be together with a certain someone and use something to cover her body. In fact, towards the end, Gong Mama wanted to say something but hesitated. She wanted to persuade Wang Yi to restrain himself a little. Too much indulgence was not good for Wang Fei's health. That's right, she only cared about Jingwon. Lee Hongyuan had nothing to do with her. But after thinking about it, he wouldn't listen even if she said it. She would just pay attention to Wang Fei's health. Besides, it wasn't like he did it every night. Once he did it too hard, the days after were still relatively long. In the end, Jin Qinhuang didn't really have a sense of propriety. When the living king of hell stopped, the outside was already shrouded in the curtain of night. Dinner time had already passed. Therefore, it wasn't hard to see why the gift was sent out in the middle of the day. If the gift was sent before going to bed, she wouldn't be able to sleep well. For people with a regular schedule, if they didn't go to bed on time, it would definitely be very bad. At this time, Li Hongyuan was holding Jingwan and sitting in the huge bath. There was a layer of flower petals scattered on top of the bath. The steam was rising and the fragrance was overflowing. Compared to here, Li Hongyuan actually preferred to soak in the open-air hot spring outside. The water was up to her chest. Li Hongyuan gently massaged Jingwan's waist to ease the discomfort in her waist. At the same time he opened his mouth. Wanwan's dance today, who else saw it? Every day, she practiced alone. The musicians were all outside playing. It's not like you don't know. Who else could have seen it? Jingwan leaned on his body and didn't want to move at all. After a long period of vigorous exercise, even with her physique that had been exercising for a long time, her hands and feet were soft and her whole body was powerless. She could only play with a strand of his hair with her fingers as she lazily said. It was said that there were only tired cows and no land that was plowed. However, the cow known as the living king of hell was too strong. After such a consumption, he still looked like nothing happened. On the contrary, Jingwan's land was really unbearable. Then what about when you were learning this dance? A certain person's eyes were dark and unfathomable. He still had the energy to care about these things. Jingwan finally understood. She snorted in laughter. This jealousy was too unreasonable. Every time I wore this kind of clothing. At most, it was low-waisted trousers and a long-sleeve top that exposed the navel. However, if a certain person saw that kind of clothing, he would probably still be jealous. Therefore, it was better not to talk about the details. However, Li Hongyuan's IQ was not damaged at all now. Thinking of the appearance of Jingwan when she danced, if the most prominent position of the whole dance was covered tightly, what effect could it have? It was enough to show that even when she first learned, at least her waist was exposed. His wife was silly now and thought that he was easy to fool. However, there were some things that couldn't be cared too much. If he cared too much about it, it would really be meaningless and hurt feelings. It took him half an hour to calm down. Although he still didn't want to move, his stomach was already protesting. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/116345777. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 475. A level 9 handicap would be in high spirits the next day. Therefore, if Jin Qinhuang wanted his wife to not be able to get out of bed for a few days, it was basically impossible, unless he really hurt her. But would Li Hongyuan do that? Certainly not. During breakfast, Li Hongyuan seemed to have thought of something. Qingzhu, what instructions does Wang Ye have? Qingzhu, who was serving at the side, hurriedly crouched and asked. Jingwan also looked at him curiously. What about Wang Fei's clothes from yesterday? Li Hongyuan asked faintly. When he said this, not only the servant girls, even Jingwan blushed a little. If it was in her previous life, then she wouldn't say anything. That kind of clothes was not a big deal, but it was different now. It had been more than 10 years. Jingwan's thoughts must have been greatly affected. Thinking about it, when that dress was mentioned, what would the people around her think? How could she not be angry? Without thinking, she subconsciously kicked him under the table and glared at him, telling him to shut up. Li Hongyuan was not the least bit affected, and even gave Jingwan some food to eat. Qingzhu vaguely sized up the two masters, replying to Wang Ye, Wang Fei's clothes have been washed. Then after you bring it back, keep it well. Li Hongyuan's expression was still indifferent. Keep it for what? I won't wear it in the future. Deal with it. This kind of thing, it was done once. Was there a next time? Li Hongyuan glanced at Jingwan and continued to eat unhurriedly. After a moment he opened his mouth. Some special things, even if you don't use it in the future, you should keep it well. Just like Wanwan's red wedding dress. Although it was two different sets of clothes, could the two be compared? That emotional woman, she might think that it was belittling her. But if it was Li Hongyuan, Jingwan knew that the meaning was absolutely the opposite. Wang Ye thinks highly of it. Li Hongyuan waved his hand and dismissed the servants. To your husband, it is naturally important. After all, this is the first time someone has celebrated my birthday so solemnly. Li Hongyuan's expression did not change at all, but Jingwan immediately felt distressed. She reached out and held Li Hongyuan's hand. Yuan, I'm here. I'll be there for you in the future. Wanwan didn't even want to leave her clothes behind. Jingwan seemed to have heard the accusation, saying that she would be there in the future. In the end, he didn't even want to leave behind a single piece of clothing. He was simply insincere. If Yuan likes it, he can stay. Jingwan felt that she was digging a hole for herself. My wife is so easy to coax. However, only someone who truly cared about you would be like this, because she was willing to be coaxed by you. Then every year in the future, on my birthday, Wanwan will dance for me, okay? Until you can't dance anymore. This was what it meant to be insatiable. Jingwan's expression cracked a little. She retracted her hand. What heartache! She should have fed it to the dogs. She expressionlessly said, "How can you give me the same gift every year? For some things, once is enough. Besides, when I'm 50 or 60 years old, I might still be very healthy. If you dance then, you won't be afraid that you'll be blind. Do whatever you want." Jingwan did not intend to pay attention to him. She was still not full. Li Hongyuan had long stopped caring about the fact that no one had ever given him a birthday. Even in his previous life, when he became the emperor, he did not take a birthday celebration seriously at all. The courtiers earnestly advised him, and whether he wanted to do it or not depended entirely on his mood. However, when someone had no other purpose and had carefully prepared a gift for you, how could he be indifferent? People were greedy. If there was one, there would naturally be another. Even if Wanwan's teeth fell out, your husband would still kiss her. What's the point of dancing at 60 years old? 60 years old might still be the same as yesterday. Li Hongyuan calmly looked at Jingwan, as if he was still a little unsatisfied. Then I'm sorry. You're not blind, but I don't have the cheek to dance. Speaking of which, a body covered in orange peel, belly dancing? What kind of international joke was this? That was not sexy, it was purely an eyesore. Would it still be the same as yesterday? His body did not want to, and his heart probably did not want to. And a man in his 60s or 70s hugging a little girl to warm the bed was very normal. TSK thinking of this, her heart seemed to be unhappy. Although it was really boring to ask if someone would have a change of heart after a few decades. Li Hongyuan moved to Jingwan's side and leaned close to her ear. At 60 years old, Wanwan is still as beautiful as a flower. Jingwan cast a sidelong glance at him and sneered. At 60 years old, Yuan is a mess of an old man. Is that so? Li Hongyuan hugged Jingwan and kissed her. Isn't that just right? Messy old men all like beautiful women. His skin was super thick, and he was even more gluttonous. Therefore, this kind of thing in the end, basically all roads lead to the same destination. Fortunately, a certain person had eaten his fill yesterday. Even if he was still in the mood now, he would not do anything in consideration of Jingwan's body. At most, he would just kiss and touch her. Yesterday's matter was not dealt with, so it would definitely take a little more time today. Moreover, it would be dealt with after breakfast, and not piled up until the evening. Regarding Jingwan's dedication to her job, the subordinates expressed that compared to her, Wang Yi seemed to be a little too unqualified. Everyone had already expected that in the future, when Wang Fei was fully familiar with these matters, Wang Yi would completely wash his hands of the matter, and directly look for Wang Fei whenever there was a problem. In Li Hongyuan's eyes, he was the one who usurped the throne. Those who did not know would think that it was his wife, TSK. Jingwan was dealing with matters while listening to Imperial bodyguard Qian and Yi's report about Jing City. Although he was no longer a hidden guard, it was not different from what he did before. After all, he was more familiar with it, but he was sure that he would not be sent out on missions again. Yesterday evening, the imperial physician diagnosed Princess Rue's pregnancy pulse. Hearing this, Jingwan stopped what she was doing and turned to look at Li Hongyuan. Is she really pregnant? If not, she would definitely not dare to let the imperial physician diagnose her pulse with great fanfare. Li Hongming's luck is really good. Li Hongyuan did not have any reaction. But, even if she is really pregnant, so what? At that time, it will not only confuse the royal bloodline, but also Princess Rue's promiscuity in the imperial harem. Or Prince Rue can't have children. For the sake of the throne, he will not hesitate to let an outsider defile his princess. It will be more fun, right? Jingwan was silent. Prince Rue had already taken the sterilization powder. The person who drugged her must know that she could not have children. Then, no matter how the child came about, there must be a problem. It was like yellow mud falling into the crotch of the trousers. If it was not that, it would be that. According to someone's plan, if she was really pregnant, it would be worse than a fake pregnancy. Although this plan was a little vicious, Jingwan did not mean to stop it at all. On the contrary, if she is really pregnant, it may not be a boy. In this case, it must be a boy just in case. After all, there may not be another chance in the imperial harem of Prince Rue's mansion. Of course, this child must be a boy. Where do you think this child will come from, Your Highness? No matter where it comes from, it's okay if it is not used. Once it is used, it will be a dead end. That was an innocent little life. Wan's emotions are always written on her face. Well, don't think so much. I will try my best to keep the child, and let the child return to his parents. However, Wan, you have to know that this may not be a good thing for the child. Jingwan certainly understood that the child who could be chosen was very likely to have some problems. For example, he was not expected by others, and someone did not want the child to exist. Because the more it was like this, the more the tail could be cleaned as much as possible. Yuan, help if you can. If it will cause you trouble, just ignore it. No matter whether the child is innocent or not, it is an outsider. You are the most important. Her compassion was based on a premise. Li Hongyuan smiled. It's not a big deal. Jingwan also smiled. She put this matter aside and waited for the child to be born. But now, imperial concubine Su and the others still could not relax because of this. After all, when they did not know the mastermind behind the scenes, they would inevitably be on tenterhooks. They did not know if the mastermind behind the scenes would play any tricks again. It was necessary to be 120% vigilant. Just thinking about it was tiring. Adoptive mother has not sent anyone to send the invitation yet. It is very likely that she will not hold a birthday banquet. Probably. Li Hongyuan was not interested. It did not matter whether these things were held or not. If they were held, they would just give face and make a trip. It would be better if they were not held. Recently, he was a little lazy and did not want to move. Then let's prepare the horse racing invitation. How about it? Up to you. Li Hongyuan said lazily, his whole body leaning on the couch again. Yuan, are you sleepy? Seeing him like this, Jingwan could not help but tease him. Probably. His eyes were half closed, as if he would fall asleep at any time. Jingwan looked at him, her helplessness turned into worry in an instant. Let Gongjio take your pulse? Li Hongyuan opened his eyes and looked at Jingwan. Wan is thinking too much. It is Wan who is too diligent. This husband is just bored. However, in order to make you feel at ease, there is no harm in letting Gongjio take a look. Just take it as a check of the pulse. This subordinate will go and call Gongjio over. Imperial bodyguard Qian, who had been forced to eat dog food in the background, seized the opportunity and immediately volunteered. Go. Imperial bodyguard Qian's feet were like oil as he walked very quickly. Only Gongjio came in after him. It was obvious that Li Hongyuan's health was very good. Even if he was so crazy yesterday, there were no signs of kidney deficiency. Therefore, Jin Qinhuang was really idle. His wife was also busy and did not accompany him. Jingwan rubbed her eyebrows. Was this really someone who was busy fighting for power? Jingwan decided not to care about him anymore. Let him do whatever he wanted. Even if he was bored to the point of sleeping, focusing on the things at hand was the most important thing. Just like this, one was busy, the other was idle. Time passed quickly for an hour. Jingwan stretched. Ayuan. N. https://www.bicken.com/11/118007/11687605. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website, and Bicken.com. Chapter 476. It's up to you. From Li Hongyuan's point of view, there was essentially no difference between playing big and playing small. That was to find fun. Opening the horse racing track to make money was just to see his wife happy and play around. Even if he needed money in the future, he could find it from other places. He didn't need to do anything now. His things, even if they were moldy and long grass, would not be shared with others. However, who let his wife be happy, so it didn't matter. From another point of view, this was a good opportunity. The bigger the game, the easier it would be to make a move. If some people didn't take the opportunity to do something, Li Hongyuan would be very disappointed. In the entire capital, if one wanted to know which people were better at playing and horsemanship, one would know after checking. Or if they had a group of capable ministers under them, one didn't need to deliberately check. One just had to ask and perhaps they would know the answer. In fact, the people below did know. However, in order to achieve perfection, they didn't want to have any negligence. They still carefully checked one side. This kind of rigor had obviously become a habit. It could be imagined that those people who were far from reaching this level, when they received the invitation with Jin Qinhuang's official seal, would be very surprised. Especially since they were essentially the kind of dandy young masters who didn't do proper work. Of course, as the elders of these people, their expressions were also quite wonderful. Regardless of his reputation, he was a genuine Qinhuang and deeply received the emperor's grace. Even if he only asked you to amuse him, for many people, it was a great honor. Being disliked by the family all day, the disgraceful thing who couldn't wait to be beaten 3 times a day, suddenly receiving the favor that they might not be able to get in their lifetime. The feeling in their hearts was really, if it was purely spoiled by the family, it was still okay. Perhaps the mother and grandmother in the family would clap their hands and laugh, saying that their good son and grandson had good prospects. And these people's tails would probably be raised to the sky. So what if the other brothers were powerful? Could they get Jin Qinhuang's invitation? Could they enter Jin Qinhuang's manor? Could they be invited by Jin Qinhuang to race together? However, if it was a waste of a concubine's son that was specially raised by a D mother, those D mothers would probably vomit blood. Originally, they had suppressed him with great difficulty, but now they used this kind of method to turn things around, no matter what the consideration was. As the head of the family, he would pay more attention to it. The more ambitious he was, the more support he would give. Once the illegitimate sons got up, the D sons would certainly not have as many benefits as they originally had. Moreover, if Jin Qinhuang's whims were not just once, there would be many, many times. Then these illegitimate sons who crawled up, as D mothers, would not dare to move even half a point. If they moved, perhaps they would cut off some of their own husbands' paths. Thus, they might not be able to sit on the position of the principal wife. After all, Jin Qinhuang had money, knew how to play, and had seen his superb horsemanship. Even if they were afraid of him, their hearts were still a little itchy. However, Jin Qinhuang had never taken them out to play. This time, he actually invited them to race together. Deep in their hearts, they couldn't help but be excited. Moreover, they could also be proud of their father who wanted to break their legs. This was going out to play in broad daylight. As for those who were grounded, they were even happier. Dad, it's not that I want to go out, it's Jin Qinhuang who invited me. You don't want me to go out? Fine, you went to reply to Jin Qinhuang's invitation. Encountering this kind of evil creature, as the father, they definitely wanted to beat them to death. However, they really couldn't not give Jin Qinhuang face. Therefore, looking at their own family's evil creature's proud face, they could only endure it. They actually wanted to detain the evil creatures at home, but they couldn't because these evil creatures still had an invitation in their hands. Jingwan didn't know if it was because of her bad taste, but those big families, not only did they send an invitation to the head of the family, they also sent an invitation to their family's best. Detain? Hee. But fortunately, they didn't only invite the best. Therefore, they naturally sent the family's most outstanding and most capable ones over. At least, they had to watch a bit, and didn't make any unmanageable mess. Moreover, since the situation of each family was the same, then it was also a rather good opportunity to make friends. And for those people whose status didn't reach this level, one invitation could still bring 5 people. Naturally, each had their own considerations. Even if it was the illegitimate son who could turn the tables and become indignant, she also had her own plans. Even if the illegitimate son stood out in front of Jin Qinhuang, it was still the same. But if their own child made friends with the children of the big families, then it was possible for them to soar to the sky. Thinking like this, their hearts were burning hot. Their indignation and unwillingness were thrown to one side as they thought about how to make their child stand out. And those young ladies, young women and little bean who had not yet grown up, their thoughts were more simple. They were curious and wanted to go take a look. After all, last year when Jin Qinhuang built a horse farm, it could be said that it was on a grand scale. Even with the Jiangnan incident, the emperor's thunderous rage didn't stop work. Moreover, that belonged to the imperial manor, so there were few opportunities to go. With this opportunity, they naturally wanted to satisfy some curiosity and even a little vanity. Therefore, whether the advantages outweighed the disadvantages or the disadvantages outweighed the advantages, it really couldn't be generalized. These people were all invited, so Jin Qinhuang's brothers and sisters naturally couldn't be left out, regardless of whether they had left the palace or not. In fact, those who were still in the palace were even more looking forward to it. After all, for them to go out of the palace, it was countless times more difficult than for a lady to go out of the boudoir. Therefore, the horse race that was prepared this time, compared to Jingwan's idea, was a bit bigger and more lively. It could be said that all those who could attend were all present. All the participating horses were first sent to the manor 2 days before the official race, and agreed that one person would follow. Finally, when the horses were gathered together, Jingwan saw that spectacular scene and her heart was a bit hard to describe. The total number of invitations sent out, there are less than 100. These 200 plus horses, where did they come from? Replying to Wang Fei, some young masters sent more horses. The steward of the Wangfu who was in charge of these horses tactfully replied, how many horses are they preparing for one person to ride? But it doesn't matter. Originally, they didn't intend to let those young masters personally participate. In any case, the ultimate goal is to bet on horses and not on people. They have that kind of confidence, so it doesn't matter if they send all the horses. Each family can only send one horse. If the extra horses want to appear, let them pay the appearance fee. After all, this is the first time, so the appearance fee will be cheaper. 1,000 taels for one horse. In addition, the horses of the same family can't appear in the same race. This Wang Fei is also thinking of them. After all, some people may be willing to compete by themselves. At the same time, it will be convenient for them to bet on each of their horses. They were also convinced that the Wang Fei's idea was another way to make money. It must be said that some people were bursting with confidence in their horses. 2 days later, the young masters who were preparing for the race, after getting the explanation from the people of the stud farm, thought that it was good. Wasn't it just 1,000 taels of appearance fee? It was a piece of cake. After getting the approval, they waved their hands and asked their attendants to go home and bring the other treasures at home. Speaking of which, young people were definitely not the only ones who were fond of horses. Some people had been fond of horses for their entire lives. Even if they could no longer personally ride them, they were still willing to raise a few precious horses. Such people, if given the chance, were also quite willing to bring out their treasures to show them off. Therefore, this stud farm really didn't have to worry about its prosperity. Although the people who came were all young people and children, the number of people present was not less than that of a very important banquet. The essential purpose was to have fun. Therefore, Jingwang was also simple and convenient. She only needed to entertain a few sisters-in-law. She was really surprised to see Princess Lu. It was not easy for her to be pregnant. She was still in a special period and the pregnancy was not stable. She dared to come out and wander around. Was she really fearless, or did she have other ideas? Jingwan's eyes flashed slightly, but she did not say anything. She only asked the servants to serve her well. The things that she asked them to prepare for her were all normal, and would not go wrong. Moreover, they were all passed through the hands of the people around her. However, perhaps because she was really happy, Princess Lu became much gentler. Her smile was not perfect from the beginning to the end. At least in Jingwan's eyes, it was much more real. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/1172528. HTML. Please click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Mobile edition website: mbicken.com. Chapter 477. Sixth sister-in-law, your manner is really beautifully managed. Seventh Wang Fei said sourly. The other sisters-in-law's hearts were not much different from hers. Obviously they had the same status, but many times, they really felt that they were dwarfed by others. That kind of stifling feeling in their hearts really made people feel very uncomfortable. In fact, the surrounding area was basically the imperial manor. The other princes and Qinhuang all had their own manors nearby. However, in comparison, Jin Qinhuang's two manors were the best. The location was good, and the products were abundant. Not only that, just one of them was at least twice the size of the other manors. The biggest difference was even more than 4 times. The two manors were more than 8 times the size. Those places were more remote, the roads were more winding, and there wasn't enough money to renovate and take care of them. But for those who could see Jin Qinhuang's manor from their own manor, comparing the two, their own manor was simply like the wilderness. Although they had long accepted their fate and knew that no matter what, they couldn't compare, but every time they saw it, they couldn't help but feel envious and jealous. Jingwan had long been accustomed to this kind of thing and didn't care. It's a waste to leave this manor alone. Even if we stay in this manor, the one next to it is enough. Moreover, our Wangya feels that it's strange and boring on weekdays, so this manor will be open to the public in the future for people to play. If sister-in-law and younger brothers and sisters are free, you can also come and sit. Several people listened and looked at each other in dismay. She must be joking. In any case, this was the imperial manor under the prince's name. How could it be for people to enjoy and play? It was too degrading. Just this point alone, they would be impeached. However, unless it was a major crime like treason, no matter how they impeached, they probably wouldn't be able to touch Jin Qinhuang. The corners of their mouths twitched, and they didn't say anything. The lesson of the past told them that their sisters-in-law was also not to be trifled with. If they provoked her, what would the consequences be? Wasn't the current Gong Qinhuang the best proof? She was estranged from her maternal family. Her son was isolated. Her husband abandoned her. And a younger cousin was sent to the Gong Qinhuang Fu. Although she was a concubine, but she was favored more than the two Gong Qinhuang Fu. Compared to the Gong Qinhuang Fu, she was only a little worse. It could be seen that the relationship between the Gong Qinhuang Fu and the champion Marquis Fu was still close, but the left governor, the Gong Qinhuang Fu, and the Gong Qinhuang Fu seemed to be, the Gong Qinhuang Fu and the left governor, who held military power, had a grudge against each other. It was simply a matter that made people clap their hands in joy. At first, the Gong Qinhuang Fu was angry because the left governor Qin Tianming ignored him. How long had it been? He still refused to let go. He had always been humble, but it didn't change Qin Tianming's mind at all. He faintly felt that even if he continued like this, there wouldn't be a good result. Coming to this point, it could be said that he had staked everything on this one throw. He wanted to give Qin Tianming a taste of his power. However, Qin Tianming didn't react at all. He seemed to have completely abandoned his own daughter. The Gong Qin Wangfu was so angry that he didn't know how many things he smashed, but he still couldn't do anything to Qin Tianming. The Gong Qin Wangfu cursed Qin Tianming in all kinds of ways, his malice overflowing to the sky. He was always thinking about what he would do when he ascended the throne. However, he actually faintly understood that if he was abandoned by Qin Tianming, his chances of ascending the throne would be very slim. Unless the two people in front of him and Li Hongyuan all died, only then would it be his turn. Although he understood this in his heart, he still didn't want to admit it. However, some ideas were constantly breeding, and he didn't know when they would be put into action. Originally, it could be said that the tripartite situation had been broken. Prince Kong and Prince Rui basically didn't put this younger brother in their eyes. Of course, in Prince Kang's view, Qin Tianming was working for him in the dark. Now that he was openly falling out with that good younger brother, it didn't affect him much. On the contrary, without this connection, those who originally stood on the side of the good younger brother would probably have to reconsider. Therefore, when the other brothers tried to rope in Qin Tianming, Prince Kong sneered. Of course, he didn't forget to give Qin Tianming some benefits to strengthen the relationship between them. Facing these people, Qin Tianming's heart was tired, especially when he had to face that temperamental real master. Speaking of which, the Gongqin princess consort was his own daughter. Even if she became unbearable, it was impossible for him to completely abandon her. In the end, giving up now, to some extent, was actually protecting her. His daughter now drew a clear line between herself and the Gongqin Wangfu. In the future, when Jin Qin Wangfu came to settle accounts, his daughter would be implicated as much as possible. However, he couldn't say anything, and his wife couldn't do anything about it. The Gongqin princess consort, who didn't know this, could be said to be in a state of despair. She said she was sick and didn't come out, so she really was sick. However, in the end, she was still the left governor's daughter. Even if the Gongqin Wang disliked her, he would absolutely not torture her. These things everyone knew in their hearts. Although it was very inconceivable that the left governor would go to this extent. However, the Gongqin princess consort's initial decline was indeed related to Jin Qin Wangfu. Then, every time she had an unpleasant encounter with Jin Qin Wangfu, her decline would increase. It was like a curse. Therefore, when Jingwan didn't know, these sisters-in-law had already decided not to provoke her easily. Not to mention a friendly relationship, at least, they wouldn't deliberately find fault with her. Therefore, at this time, even if they were jealous, they were limited and didn't dare to go too far. Jingwan actually felt a little strange about their attitude, but she didn't like to argue with people. No one found fault with her, so naturally she was happy and relaxed. As for why there was such a change, who cares? Regardless of whether it was the racecourse or the leisure area, they had arranged for enough people. They were all trained, so Jingwan didn't need to worry about them at all. Although, she still had more ideas in her mind that she would slowly add to the leisure area. Of course, it was just entertainment, and its influence was limited. The horse race was about to start. Jingwan took a few people to the horse track. The stands were naturally divided into levels and areas. They naturally occupied the luxurious room on the highest level. From this position, they could basically see the entire field. The 10 horses for the first round had been sent to the fence behind the starting line. A list of which horse belonged to which track had been distributed to everyone. There was still an hour before the start of the race, so everyone could place their bets on the horses they liked. Of course, in Jingwan's view, there was actually not a small drawback. The field was big, and the specific situation of the horses couldn't be seen. For those who could distinguish the horses, they lost a lot of opportunities. However, this kind of people were in the minority. The rest were still betting according to the owner of the horse. In the beginning, there were more people who just watched and didn't make a move. It was believed that after each competition, which horses could stand out, it would naturally gradually surface. But this kind of ever-victorious general, there was no need to worry that it would exist for a long time. If the result was the same every time, then what was the point? Not to mention those who lost, whether it was for money or face, they would all go and look for better horses. Jin Qinhuang's precious horses were especially good-looking ones. The horse farm was Li Hongyuan's, it was his wife's idea. Naturally, she would control everything in the palm of her hand. Even the people who would manage the horse farm in the future might be sent by Lu Qingdi. Horses were basically strategic goods. Although there were people who sold horses among the people, they were in the minority. Moreover, the truly good horses wouldn't appear in those places. Therefore, there was no need to worry about the popularity of horse racing disturbing the people and causing chaos. Li Hongyuan and his other brothers were in another private room. Speaking of which, everyone wasn't stupid. After knowing someone's rules, they could basically think of the huge profit margin. After a little calculation, their hearts jumped wildly. This wasn't a hen that laid golden eggs, it was simply a gold mine. Sixth brother has good thoughts, ah. Even with Prince Rui's composure, at this moment his emotions were brought out. Not to mention the others, their jealousy was about to erupt in an instant. Li Hongyuan didn't care, and didn't even give them a glance. Wang Fei's idea is just to earn some money for rouge and face powder. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/11778266. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, exempt from registration. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com mobile version reading website, mbicken.com. Chapter 478. Li Hongyuan didn't care and didn't even give them a glance. Wang Fei's idea is just to earn some money for the rouge and face powder. He pointed at them and gave them a look of disdain, then threw out the words, making a fuss about nothing. A few small coins were worth mentioning. In any case, he was a Qinhuang, his eyelids were so shallow. These people cursed in their hearts. Who the hell would need so much money to buy rouge and face powder? All the noble ladies in the capital, including the many imperial concubines and princesses in the palace, wouldn't need so much. Besides, who didn't know that the best rouge and face powder in Rouge Pavilion was from Jin Qinhuang Fei's prescription? Not only was there a large amount of dividends, all the rouge and face powder didn't cost a single copper. Still want rouge and face powder money? Even if you're looking for an excuse, you should be more careful. Even if you don't say anything, it's still better than now. However, no matter how much they cursed in their hearts, they couldn't say it out loud. Or rather, they didn't dare. Somewhat stifled, they pulled at their necklines and adjusted their breathing. They warned themselves to be calm and not be impulsive. If you're interested, then bet a few rounds to play. Li Hongyuan propped one hand on the armrest of the chair, propping up his chin. His other hand tapped the other side from time to time, as leisurely as he could be. Because it was the first time, the betting rules were relatively simple and crude. Moreover, it was betting on the champion and not the ranking. In the first round, betting on one to win 10 horses in each round. So far, there were almost 16 rounds. The top 3 horses in the first round would participate in the second round, 8 horses in each round, betting on one to win 3. Similarly, the top 3 would participate in the third round, betting on one to win 5. Then the top 3 would participate in the final round, betting on one to win 10. As the owner of the horse, every time they won, there would be a corresponding monetary reward. If they could win from the beginning to the end, then based on this point, their pockets would rapidly expand. In the first round, the lowest bet was 10 taels, the second round was 100 taels, the third round was 1,000 taels, and the last round wasn't 10,000 taels. Instead, it was changed by Jingwan to unlimited. If it was small, it could be 1 copper coin. If it was large, it didn't matter if it was tens or hundreds of thousands. This time, even if they lost in the end, it didn't matter. Jin Qinhuang could completely afford it. However, this possibility was relatively small. Of course, it wouldn't be like this in the future. The odds would always be adjusted according to the number of bets and the amount bet. There probably wouldn't be a minimum limit either. In short, as the banker, he would definitely make a profit. As brothers, they had to give some face to each other. Moreover, they had their own horses to participate in the race. Not to mention others, they had to at least have some confidence in themselves. Perhaps only Li Hongyuan had this privilege of not playing at all. Speaking of which, no matter how poor he was still a prince. Thus, when he made a move, he naturally couldn't lower himself to the lowest value. As the elder brother, Prince Kong bet 500 taels for each round. If this continued, several thousand taels would be spent. Prince Rui slightly reduced his base bet. However, for some unknown reason, the Gong Qinhuang was completely equal to Prince Rui. Behind him, the fifth prince naturally reduced his bet a bit more. Behind him, except for Li Hongyuan, the other three were equal to the fifth prince. And there was nothing wrong with the rest, but the Gong prince had a problem. Prince Kong was the eldest son of the first wife. Prince Rui's birth mother was an imperial concubine, while the Gong prince's birth mother was only an imperial concubine. According to reason, he should have slightly retreated from Prince Rui, and the rest should have been equal to him. However, he insisted that he was on the same level as Prince Rui, and according to his original intention, he should have even surpassed Prince Kong. But in the end he didn't lose his mind. Prince Rui tilted his head and glanced at him, smiling as if he didn't care at all. However, some people behind him couldn't help but tremble. Obviously, this third imperial brother's mood was very good recently. He was amiable to everyone. That smile made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. But now, why did it inexplicably feel a little scary? The Gong Qinhuang's expression also sank, but then, not to be outdone, he returned a smile to Prince Rui, a naked provocation. Now, even if he took advantage of the situation, so what? He was clearly in a weaker position. Now that he was happy, who knew what would happen in private? Moreover, although it was a small matter, it was enough for some officials to see the bigger picture and make a choice. So the Gong Qinhuang obviously didn't have the life of a living king of hell. So why did he want to get the living king of hell's illness? Squandering without any scruples is the living king of hell's privilege. Him suppressing you two brothers is a matter of course. No one would think it was wrong. If he really followed the rules, other people would have to worry about whether he was holding back some evil tricks. It was said that Prince Kong was a rash and impulsive person with a violent temper. In fact, the Gong Qinhuang was not to be outdone. Especially now, after the Empress fell ill. Prince Kong restrained himself and appeared to be a lot calmer. Whether it was real calmness or fake calmness, in contrast, the Gong Qinhuang was more and more unbearable. Among Lu Qingdi's sons, in addition to the two who died young, there were 8 who had already reached adulthood and were titled princes. Counting them, the number was really not small. However, the ones who were really competitive for the throne were only the first few. The ones behind, to be honest, even if they really had ambition and wanted that position, it would be very difficult for them to realize it. Because their birth mother's status was not high, and they were not favored. They did not have a strong maternal family, and similarly, they did not have a strong wife's family. As for their own talent, well, without that support being too talented, they might even lose their lives. Apart from the external conditions, in terms of himself, Prince Rui was actually the most suitable person to sit on the throne. Whether it was his temperament or the way he handled things, although he might have a dark heart, he was actually the most concerned about face, cherishing his feathers, and paying attention to his reputation. This kind of person, even if he waited until he ascended the throne, he would still carry the title of Eternal Emperor. Therefore, even if the people who were fighting for the throne now, unless they really hated him to the bone, they would not easily kill him. Killing people would not be done openly, and they would not do it in the open. He would not even be like his father, treating someone with flowers and brocade on the surface, but in reality, he was suffering. He could give them glory, splendor and wealth, but probably not power. In terms of ability, Prince Rui was actually very good. At one time, he was also the one who Lu Qingdi thought the most highly of, but later, Li Hongyuan secretly tampered with him. weakening Lu Qingdi's good impression of him. In fact, some people, including those who secretly supported the living king of hell, thought that Prince Rui was better as the emperor. However, after boarding the living king of hell's pirate ship, if one wanted to get off, it was not as simple as becoming a corpse and being thrown off. Of course, in terms of ability, Prince Rui naturally could not compare to Jin Qinhuang. However, if the former wanted to become the eternal emperor, he could probably only think about it. Being able to raise the current Qi Yuan by a little was already not bad. As for the latter, as long as he had a reason, he was completely capable of pushing the Qi Yuan into a flourishing age. However, Li Hongyuan's temperament was treacherous and hard to understand. He could become the monarch of a flourishing age, but he could also go to the other extreme. A lot of things were probably within his thoughts. If he were to bet on Prince Rui, he would be able to proceed smoothly without any worries. However, if he were to bet on Prince Rui, there would be a considerable risk. It could be a high return, or it could be a loss. In fact, regarding Jin Qinhuang's love for his Wangfei and his willingness to restrain himself for his Wangfei, people like the head of the cabinet Ruan Ruizhong and the left governor Qin Tianming were happy to see it. Because Jin Qinhuang was really too special. If there was someone who could slightly restrain him, and this person had a sense of righteousness and propriety, and guide Jin Qinhuang in a good direction, then they would have no objections even if Jin Qinhuang only favored him. For them, the country was actually the most important. And the Minister of Personnel, Luo Peishan, was even more selfish. He did not like Jin Qinhuang Fu's harem becoming chaotic even more. Therefore, when some people jumped out so fiercely some time ago, these people did not participate in the slightest. Even if they guessed that those women's mishap was not because they were restrained, but because they were tampered with, their hearts did not have the slightest fluctuation. They even hoped that this situation could continue to be maintained, not only for Jin Qinhuang to ascend the throne in the future, but also for the next emperor. For an emperor who grew up in a good environment, even if it was worse, there was at least a 30% chance that it would not be the case. Jingwan simply did not know these things. She did not know that in the future, even if she monopolized the harem, the court officials would not have too much objection to her. At this moment, the first horse race had already begun. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/118266656. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com mobile edition reading website, and bicken.com. Chapter 479. For a woman, she could still maintain her composure when she saw such a scene. However, she had never seen such a scene before, so she was also affected by the surrounding environment. Her face was slightly flushed, and her eyes were filled with uncontrollable excitement. She even clenched her handkerchief tightly in her hand. In a relatively crowded place, she could restrain herself. But in a private room, she was surrounded by acquaintances, so she didn't have to do so. She could cheer without caring about her image, just like the typical Yuan Xiaoqiao. Of course, the children basically didn't have any concerns. At this time, the atmosphere was too lively. No matter whether it was the brothers or sisters or the nannies serving them, no one restrained them. After all, many people were like this now. If they forcibly restrained them, wouldn't they be hated? Not only their own family members, but also other people's children. Everyone was unruly and improper. If they taught their own children, others would be implicated. In Li Hongyuan's private room, at the beginning, everyone could still sit still. The first one who couldn't sit still was naturally Prince Kong, because this was the first game, and his horse was in it. Speaking of which, Jingwan was kind enough to separate all the princes and princes' horses. According to Li Hongyuan's character, he could put all of them in the same game. At the beginning, they would be at daggers drawn and bows bent. It was fine if they fought for power, but when it came to entertainment, they shouldn't make it like a battlefield. Since they were horses raised in the prince's mansion, they were certainly not bad. As time went by, the distance they covered was constantly increasing. The 10 horses were almost divided into 3 camps. Prince Rue's horse was in the first camp, and there was only 1 horse in the second camp. They were very close to each other, chasing each other. At most, they were only 1 horse's head away from each other. If it weren't for the rules of the competition, the people on the 2 horses might have already fought. Competitions, especially those that were very competitive, often had the charm to make people's blood boil. Of course, it was also possible to make enemies. After all, people cared about their reputation. There were often more people who couldn't afford to lose than those who had a good mentality and could afford to lose. Prince Kong had long ignored the others and rushed to the front of the private room. There were no windows, only a waist-high half of the wall. Prince Kong was abnormally agitated, either waving his hands in excitement or smashing his fists in anger. Words like "run quickly" and "trash" came out of his mouth. What was his image? What was his brotherhood? All of it was thrown beyond the highest heavens. In the end, Prince Kong lost, and it was only by a very small margin. Prince Kong turned around with a dark face. "Give me the name list. Benwang wants to see who can raise such a good horse." His words seemed to be filled with praise, but his expression and tone were as if he wanted to eat someone alive. What he wanted to express was that he wanted to see who had the guts to win despite knowing that it was his horse. Others might be disdainful, mocking, or gloating. Prince Kong grabs the list handed over by a close attendant. After looking at it, he sneers. A mere 6th-rank official can also afford to raise such a good horse? This prince is very suspicious of the origin of this horse. It was clear that he wanted to use public office to avenge private wrongs, yet he still found such a high-sounding reason. According to common sense, a 6th-rank official's salary really couldn't afford to raise a precious horse, but he still couldn't allow people to have a bit of background? From beginning to end, the calmest one was probably Li Hongyuan, his posture still leisurely. It's merely a few thousand taels, nothing more. If eldest imperial brother can't afford to lose, Benwang won't let people take your money. It's not a big deal. It's just that there's one thing that eldest imperial brother needs to know. Today, every horse's owner is a guest invited by Benwang. If eldest imperial brother wants to do something, you should consider it carefully. The furious Prince Kang's complexion congealed as he looked at Li Hongyuan. As a result, when Li Hongyuan spoke to him, he didn't even look at him. Prince Kong huffed and puffed. What can I do? Lao Lu is thinking too much. That's right, those who participated in the horse race, no matter what their status was, were all holding on to Jin Qinhuang's invitation. If because of a competition, it ended up attracting a calamity, where would the living king of hell put his face? Moreover, it was bound to affect other people with relatively lower status. Then, wouldn't this competition go against some of Jingwan's ideals? Would the living king of hell allow it? As for not giving Prince Kong face? Hee, it's just that the horse is inferior to others, the skill is inferior to others, and you still want to complain that others didn't let you? If it was someone else, you could still use your power to suppress them, but you met someone that the living king of hell wanted to protect. Ha! Prince Kong sat down and couldn't act out, at least not now. As for whether he would act in private, it was hard to say. However, even if he acted in private, this face would still be lost, and this elegance would also be gone. The others secretly watched as a joke, but they were also a bit worried that they would encounter the same thing. However, it was useless to think about it now. If they really did encounter it, at least they couldn't show that they were narrow-minded. There were a lot of people who had the same worries as them, because before they bought horses based on the person. Prince, how could the horse race be bad? Absolutely not. Therefore, many people actually bought Prince Kang's horse in the first round. As a result, they lost. Naturally, they wouldn't be so reassured about the later rounds. After all, they had already bought it, so it couldn't be changed. However, the people later on didn't have Prince Kang's bad luck. Even the sickly Fifth Wang Ye's horse was first in that round. This was a bit unexpected. After all, because of Fifth Wang Ye's health, he wasn't interested in horses and the like. His horse was actually used to make up the numbers, and it was only a horse that he had obtained by chance. Therefore, among all the Wangs, only Prince Kong lost. This time he completely lost face. He once suspected that this was simply Li Hongyuan's deliberate arrangement, in order to make him lose face. Obviously, Prince Kong thought too much. If the living King Yama really wanted to scheme against him, would it be over just to make him lose face? After that, with the participation of these masters, the situation of betting in the later rounds wasn't as concentrated as in the beginning. People wouldn't bet based on the title of each other's father. After all, some things were really hard to predict. And under such circumstances, the competition was more exciting. However, this was probably the only time such a situation would happen according to the owner's bet. When the first round was over, some people's necks were already hoarse. However, they felt more excited. Really, it was very exciting. After all, this was the first time they experienced it. Sometimes, they even wished they could be the ones who did it. However, it was already late. The second round would be in the afternoon. Originally, the blood was already boiling. They couldn't wait to know the final result immediately. In particular, those who won a lot of money in the first round probably had never experienced the experience of earning a lot of money in an instant. That kind of feeling was really quite fleeting. Then greed quietly grew in the bottom of their hearts, and they wanted more. However, the arrangement of the competition was not up to them. Moreover, after a fast run, the horse always needed time to recover its strength. The closer the horse was to the back, the more so it was. Although the whole course of the competition didn't consume much of the horse's energy, during lunch, many people still didn't stop talking and kept discussing. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/11974957. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is free. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website, mbicken.com. Chapter 480. However, halfway through the meal, everyone heard a tiger's roar. Because it came too suddenly, everyone was startled at first. Then someone shouted, "Tiger!" and the scene immediately became restless. Tigers were no joke. Even if they hadn't seen one before, they definitely knew how ferocious tigers were. As the saying goes, one's face would turn pale at the mention of a tiger. Fear was unforgettable. Moreover, listening to the roar, it seemed to be very close. Who wouldn't panic? Moreover, it was said that there was a rare beast garden in this manor. There were countless rare and exotic beasts in it. Perhaps this tiger was one of them. The more they thought about it, the more panicked they became. They also felt that the tiger's roar was getting closer and closer. Li Hongyuan put down his chopsticks. Eunuch Mu immediately handed him a wet towel. He took it and then slowly wiped his mouth. Then he changed to another towel to wipe his hands. He looked unmoved as if he didn't hear anything. After wiping his hands, he threw the towel back. Seeing him like this, the other masters at the same table also restrained themselves and didn't move. It was too embarrassing to show fear. Imperial bodyguard Qian rushed over. Obviously, he came because of the tiger. "What's the matter?" Li Hongyuan asked faintly. "Master, 2 tigers in the rare beast garden ran out. The guards there couldn't stop them and ran to the horse farm. The tigers hurt a few people. Now they are trying to drive the tigers back. If they don't listen, just kill them. Why waste so much effort?" It was obviously a very ferocious thing, but in his mouth, it was so understated. It was like pinching an ant to death. Yes. After Imperial bodyguard Qian left, Li Hongyuan poured another cup of wine. "It's just a small matter. I just don't know who did it. It's so clumsy. Could it be that someone thinks that killing a few people can affect this prince?" When the few people present heard this, they did not respond. However, they all had different thoughts. How should they put it? They were not only worried that if they responded, the fire would burn them. When facing Li Hongyuan, apart from the 5th prince, there was probably no one who did not think of the problem of killing him. Especially in the current situation. It could be said that he was blocking the path of too many people. Now that such a thing had happened, they were all suspicious of each other. Who was the culprit? Although Li Hongyuan would not be able to completely suppress the death of a few people, if the people who died were more important, then even His Majesty would have to deal with it. After all, there was no difference between nobility and lowliness. How could the final result be the same when a few commoners died and a few high-ranking officials and nobles died? For the former, it was not impossible for Lu Qingdi to suppress it. However, for the latter, the difficulty was too great. Therefore, if the appearance of the tiger at the horse farm was not an accident but man-made, then it was obvious that they did not feel that this plan was clumsy. Or even if it did not succeed, as long as the tail was cleaned up, it did not matter. If the first time did not succeed, then the second time. If the second time did not succeed, then the third time. If the precious beast's garden did not succeed, then the horse farm did. If the horse farm did not succeed, then the manor did. There was a saying that went, "There are thieves for 1,000 days, there are no thieves for 1,000 days." Jin Qinhuang only had that little amount of manpower. If he could really make it watertight, then there would be a problem. As long as it was not like an iron bucket, then there would be a flaw. In the beginning, there was no need to think about his name. It could be done in a roundabout way. As long as His Majesty's favor towards him was weakened, it would be even better if His Majesty disliked him. After that, it would be much easier. Therefore, they did not think that under this kind of condition, some people had strangely reached an agreement in their hearts. With regards to their thoughts, Li Hongyuan did not know. However, even if he knew, he would not care. His current attitude was that he would not take the initiative to expose anything. However, if some people were to sense it, then he would not care at all. Moreover, this time's horse race was such a big spectacle. It was to give some people a chance. If nothing really happened, then it would be disappointing. It was just that his own wife was kind-hearted and would not involve innocent people. After all, the open and covert struggles between these people could easily take someone's life. Therefore, the horse farm and the people who came and went were strictly guarded. There must not be any slip-ups. If there was a problem with the horse, and it went crazy in the competition, the probability of someone losing their life was too high. Li Hongyuan felt that it was a pity that he was not able to make use of this point. It was just that this idea of using the precious beast's garden. Li Hongyuan's eyes darkened, and he finished the wine in his hand in one gulp. Compared to Li Hongyuan's calmness, Jingwan was not so calm. It was not because she was afraid, but because the tiger had hurt someone. One must know that the animals in the precious beast's garden were all wild. Their bestial nature and wildness, their lethality was absolutely terrifying. In the absence of anesthetics, the tiger had hurt someone and could not be brought back. Li Hongyuan gave the order to kill, and Jingwan could only remain silent. However, the matter did not end there. Just as Jingwan was quietly waiting for the result, a servant hurried over. Even if the order to kill was given, someone still died. Moreover, this person was not a servant, but a son of an aristocratic family. Jingwan almost cursed. If this matter was not caused by someone, she would write the name backwards. https://www.bicon.com/11/11807/11974959. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicon.com. Bicon.com mobile edition reading website, and Bicon.com. Chapter 481. Jingwan almost swore. If this matter wasn't man-made, she would write her name backwards. She didn't mind if someone tampered with it, but she wasn't prepared for someone to die. Jingwan stood up. I have something to do, excuse me for a moment. Her expression was particularly cold, even a bit sharp, as she walked away. Outsiders had never seen Jingwan like this before. No matter what the rumors about Jin Qin Wangfei were, most of the people that outsiders came into contact with were absolutely gentle and good-tempered. Some people even felt that she didn't seem like someone from the imperial family, and damaged the dignity of the imperial family. Looking at her now, they were completely wrong. Thinking about it, no matter how she used to be, after marrying into the imperial family, she was at least 30% worse. Compared to Jingwan, even if he knew that someone had died, Li Hongyuan didn't have the intention to get up and deal with it. He only said to hand it over to Wang Fei. Moreover, on their side, it wasn't the people below who whispered to Li Hongyuan, but directly said it out loud. Once Li Hongyuan's words came out, the people around them started to speculate, thinking that Li Hongyuan wanted to use his Wang Fei as a scapegoat. Obviously, this matter would be brought to Lu Qingdi, and according to Lu Qingdi's preference for Jin Qinwang, it was believed that he would be very happy to have someone take the blame for his son, even if that person was his daughter-in-law. The people who were secretly delighted just a moment ago couldn't help but secretly scold Li Hongyuan for being shameless. But they never thought that if they encountered a similar matter, they would definitely push their own daughter-in-law out. The main culprit and the accomplice were two different things. Moreover, the matter of not teaching strictly couldn't even be counted as an accomplice. After all, that was a daughter-in-law, not a child. Her moral upbringing was more on the head of the in-law's family than the husband's family. However, Li Hongyuan's gaze swept over the body of the guard who reported to him. Someone died in the master's territory, and he directly shouted it out. Should he say that this kind of person was honest and straightforward? Or was it something else? One must know that even if the master didn't care, the final decision should be made by the master. Even if he wasn't a demon, such a person should be properly trained. If he was, then all the more. He should be trained to the point of death. Training to the point of death would count. When Jingwan arrived at the scene, the tiger had already become a corpse. The ground was dripping with blood, and the smell of blood was very strong. In addition, there was a mat under which, most likely, the aristocratic family's son. The smell of blood made Jingwan feel a little nauseous. She covered her mouth and nose with a handkerchief. Tell me the details. Your Highness, the situation is like this. The situation was originally under control, and the irrelevant people were stopped outside. We were working together to kill the tiger. Unexpectedly, someone suddenly rushed in. The tiger was already furious, and when this person rushed in, the tiger directly opened its mouth. We didn't even have time to react before we were buried in the tiger's mouth. Now he understood that he was just throwing his life away. Jingwan curled her lips coldly. She didn't hesitate to use her own life to plot against her husband. Of course, she wouldn't have the slightest bit of mercy. Which family is he from? Your Highness, he is the only son of Secretary Bai. Jingwan was slightly startled and frowned. Things were really a little troublesome. Although the Bai family was not a top noble family, the most promising branch of it was Lu Qingdi's family. The former Empress Dowager Bai was a smart person. At the very beginning, she didn't let her niece be her son's princess. Later, after Lu Qingdi ascended the throne, she didn't let any white girl enter the palace. She even suppressed her family. She didn't let her family stand out, and she never interfered in the political affairs. When Lu Qingdi ascended the throne, he couldn't do without the Empress Dowager and Lady Bai. Empress Dowager Bai's behavior naturally won the favor of Lu Qingdi. Before Empress Dowager Bai died, the relationship between mother and son had been very good. When Empress Dowager Bai died, Lu Qingdi was so sad that he didn't go to court for a month. When Empress Dowager Bai died, she didn't have any other request. She just hoped that Lu Qingdi could take care of her family. She didn't want them to be rich or noble. As long as they didn't violate the law, he would protect them from being bullied. How could Lu Qingdi not agree to such a low request? Therefore, although the Bai family was not prominent and was very low-key, many people didn't even know about it. In the entire capital, the Bai family was definitely in the top 3 families that couldn't be provoked. If the one who died was an ordinary member of the Bai family, it would be fine. The problem was that the Bai family didn't have many children. Empress Dowager Bai only had one brother and one younger brother, no sisters. The younger brother was only a few years older than Lu Qingdi. He didn't have much ability but basically didn't cause any trouble. Now he was still alive, and his children and grandchildren were not bad. The problem was that Lu Qingdi's first uncle only had one son, the current secretary Bai. Lu Qingdi's first uncle was also a cabinet minister. After Empress Dowager Bai's death, he resolutely resigned on the grounds that he was not feeling well. However, bravely retreating was one thing. Another thing was to make way for his son. The current secretary Bai also had some difficulties in having children. In fact, in order to continue the bloodline, he had many wives and concubines. However, he had more than a dozen daughters. It wasn't easy for him to have a son. It was conceivable that such a single son was valued. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/11975662. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com mobile version reading website, and bicken.com. Chapter 482. Now this soul seedling was gone. Bai Shi's status was special, and similarly, she did not participate in the struggle for the throne. Bai Shu was a wily old fox. As long as he made his presence known at the right time, the position of one of the four elders would inevitably have a seat for him. He could be considered as having a son at an old age. Although he still had a few years old daughter at home, he was still busy making babies, hoping to give birth to a son. His son was not yet 20 years old, so he did not need to be like his father, retiring early. He only needed to steadily and surely pave his son's path. When the day came when he could no longer move, it would be almost there. As a result, Bai Shu's married daughters were more than 10, but not a single one was directly related to the princes. However, if one were to carefully line them up and calculate, they would find that except for Jin Qinhuang, they were basically related to everyone. Under such circumstances, if this precious piece of meat died, it was equivalent to all their efforts being in vain, all their plans coming to naught. Even the best person would go crazy. Therefore, the Bai family did not care how the person died. They only knew that after the person died, they would do everything to get justice. Not counting Bai Shu, Lu Qingdi's cousin, Lu Qingdi's eldest uncle was still alive. Although he was old, he basically did not move at home. His only grandson was gone. It was estimated that even if he had to crawl, he would crawl into the palace to cry to Lu Qingdi. What would Lu Qingdi do? Take it lightly? It would only be a thunderous rage. Jingwan also thought that the person who schemed against them was really clumsy. Looking at it now, it was clearly very brilliant. No matter what the method was, as long as the person was killed and died in Jin Qinhuang's manner, that was a good method. Not to mention that so many people saw Bai Gongzi pounce to court death. As long as there was no solid evidence to prove that someone was secretly plotting behind, the Bai family would bite Jin Qinhuang to death. For example, if there was no horse racing, his grandson's son would not go to the manor. If Jin Qinhuang's people did not guard well, his grandson's son would not have died. If Jin Qinhuang did not raise a tiger, his grandson's son would not have died. In short, there were many reasons. Although Lu Qingdi would not go so far as to take his son's life, and Jin Qinhuang appeared to be very idle on the surface, even if he was fined his salary and grounded, it would not be a big deal. It would certainly not satisfy the Bai family. What was most likely was that they would use all of their friendship with Lu Qingdi to strip Jin Qinhuang of his title and demote him to a common person. For a commoner to become the emperor, unless Lu Qing emperor's other sons were all dead, otherwise, it would be more legitimate than a baby prince. Although Jin Qinhuang couldn't ascend the throne normally, but he couldn't kill all his brothers after usurping the throne, right? From Emperor Lu Qingdi's point of view, the sixth son could not inherit the throne anyway. Therefore, it did not matter whether the sixth son's status was higher or lower. With his protection, even if the sixth son was a commoner, he could continue to do whatever he wanted. As for what would happen after 100 years, He would leave an imperial edict early to restore the title of nobility to the son who inherited the throne. In this way, the other sons would not have to worry about passing the throne to the sixth son. This was simply killing two birds with one stone. And in Emperor Luchengdi's heart, it could be said that he would be complacent to solve the problem and protect his son well. Therefore, if there was no strong evidence to catch the real culprit, things would probably develop as planned. However, thinking about it, since they had laid out such a trap, naturally it would not be easy to get hold of the evidence. Jingwan rubbed her eyebrows. How should she break this trap? Have all the people at the scene been detained for interrogation? Wang Fei, rest assured. They have been guarded and carefully questioned. They will not let go of any clues. Imperial bodyguard Qian said. Speaking of which, they were also angry. Things were under control, but in the end, such a problem occurred. It was simply a disgrace to them. After all, the other party was just a pampered young master who did not have much strength. They were well trained. And the guards guarding the periphery were also rice buckets. They were concentrating on dealing with the tiger, and did not notice. Could it be that the people outside also could not watch one person? So easily let people run in? Or did they deliberately let them in? You've been working for His Highness for a long time. I believe in your ability to do things. Jingwan paused. If there is something suspicious and the other party is not willing to let go, directly ask Gongjiu to do it. Just don't kill anyone. Imperial bodyguard Qian looked at Jingwan with some surprise and quickly lowered his head. Looking at some dark things, the Wang Fei also knew. And according to her temperament, she was ruthless. It seemed that she was really angry. In addition, temporarily seal the manor. Without permission, no one is allowed to go out. Also inform the Bai family. Yes. Go and ask the prince to come. If it did not involve the Bai family, naturally it would be done. It was fine even without someone. Yes. Jingwan's eyes fell on the mat. Wait, has Gongjiu seen the body? Replying to Wang Fei, he has not. There are too many people. Even if Master Bai's servants were interrogated, they were not willing to go too far away. They insisted that Master Bai's body was under their eyes. They were very emotional and made a lot of noise. If they touch Master Bai's body, I am afraid that the Bai family will not let it go. Jingwan's eyes swept the periphery and quickly found the target. Although she did not know what they were talking about, she could faintly hear crying. Because the tiger had hurt people before, Jingwan thought that the crying was related to those people. But thinking about it, it was impossible for the injured body to stay here. It must be sent to another place to heal. Thinking about it carefully, these servants of the Bai family were also very strange. They should know their master's position in the Bai family. If their master died, they would definitely not have a good ending. If they had better endurance, they would be trembling in fear and almost fainting. But now they still had the mind to think about other things. They were crying and wailing to guard their master's body to prevent others from touching it. This was not normal. Let Gongjiu do it. Interrogate these people first. Since they've already been frightened, it's reasonable for them to be a little more miserable. Then, send someone trustworthy to watch over young Master Bai's body. Don't let anyone get close. Evacuate all unrelated people. Let Gongjiu take a look at the body as soon as possible. Before the Bai family arrives, we have to finish everything. Also, find 2 experienced coroners to do the autopsy in front of the Bai family. No one would rush into the mouth of a tiger for no reason. If he was not drugged, he must have been caught with something that could affect his mind. This Master Bai was the only son of the Bai family. He was the kind that was endlessly spoiled. However, among the rich playboys in the capital, he was the kind that kept a low profile and did not cause any trouble. Master Bai and his father were very smart. Although they spoiled him, they knew how to control it well. Therefore, Master Bai's reputation was really not well known. So, it was almost impossible for him to be caught with something that could be used against him. Even if there was, he would definitely tell his family. In order to protect this only son of the Bai family, the 2 elders of the Bai family would definitely try to cover up the matter. Therefore, the possibility of him being drugged was more than 90%. Yes. Jingwan glanced at him. You should have thought about it. I am overthinking. If I say so much, it will delay the time. Do it as soon as possible. Princess, you are very thoughtful. We are not as good as you. That's enough. Don't flatter me. I know how much weight I'm worth. Do it as soon as possible. Yes. It seemed that the flattery failed. Well, when it came to pleasing the princess, he was not as good as Mu'in, the henchman who was used to flattering. Jingwan found a place to sit down. She did not want to disturb them. The maid served Jingwan a cup of tea. Jingwan occasionally took a sip. Most of the time, she held the teacup and pondered. It was not good to be too idle. This matter either did not come or was extremely tricky. When Li Hongyuan came over, he saw Jingwan quietly pondering. He waved to the maid who greeted him. When Jingwan looked up, his fingertips fell on her face. They looked at each other for a moment. Li Hongyuan said, "Don't worry. It's okay. I think you already know who died. I am worried that in the future." Li Hongyuan pressed his fingertips on Jingwan's lips. Wan, why do you think that this matter will go according to someone's plan? Do you think you can find the real murderer? The corners of Li Hongyuan's mouth curled up. What's the point of investigating the real culprit? There's no need to investigate. Just put on a show. If we investigate too thoroughly, wouldn't we be exposing our strength to outsiders? Even if it's just a drop in the ocean, wouldn't it make people more afraid? Although a fly is nothing to be afraid of, it will be very annoying if there are too many of them. Instead of spending time dealing with those trivial matters, I'm naturally more willing to spend time with Wan. Jingwan slapped his hand away. I'm serious. I'm not joking with Wan. When I first came here, I have already ordered that there is no need to use special means to interrogate. Just ask the normal questions. Gongjiu doesn't need to look at the body. When the coroner and the Bai family arrive, they can directly conduct an autopsy. The coroner will say whatever the result is. Anyway, according to what you said, it is very difficult to find the real murderer. Some people can't be touched without evidence. It's just a suspicion. So there is no need to waste time. Jingwan looked at him. Was he not joking? Are you going to take a step back in order to advance? Are you really going to be a commoner? A commoner? Wan is really thinking too much. If I become a commoner, won't Wan be wronged? My position will only be high, not low. I will not be low. Retreating in order to advance was something that could be done, but it was impossible to make him retreat so much. In this matter, there was no need for him to do so. So, a Yuan already has a countermeasure. Can you tell me what you are going to do? Wouldn't it be more interesting to have a reversal at the end of the matter? The problem is, according to what you said, I already know the final outcome. So, I am not interested in the reversal process. If you put it that way, well, it's probably taking drastic measures. What about the specifics? These words were equivalent to not saying anything. Li Hongyuan laughed again. Wan is so smart. You can make a guess yourself. Jingwan's face was a little dark. Why was he still joking with her at this time? However, the so-called taking drastic measures probably meant that he had something on the Bai family. It was a very fatal kind. If he revealed it to Lu Qingdi, even if Empress Dowager Bai was his friend, Lu Qingdi would never help the Bai family. He would even kill the Bai family. Seeing Jingwan's anger, Li Hongyuan finally stopped teasing her. He sat next to her and whispered in her ear. Jingwan opened her eyes wide in surprise. The so-called taking drastic measures was completely different from what she thought. Are you sure this is true? You are not going to do this? Of course it's true. If it's false, maybe I will do the same. Jingwan looked at him with a strange expression. Prince knows a lot about the things in the capital. It was time to publish gossip magazines. There must be some special news. What can this prove? Li Hongyuan did not take it seriously. As a person of two lives, it was normal to know more than others. It shows that a Yuan has trained well, and his subordinates are all capable people. Otherwise, how can you be omniscient? Li Hongyuan cast a sidelong glance at her. Wan, are you trying to plead for them in a roundabout way? With this, Jingwan reacted. No matter what, today's matter, whether it was the guards of Jin Wangfu or the people who looked after the tigers in the precious beasts garden, other than participating, The rest could be regarded as dereliction of duty. They must be punished. It was just a matter of light or heavy. I only hope that after the matter is clear, Prince can be lenient with the irrelevant people. Didn't I let someone pass on a message to you before? This matter will be handed over to you. How to deal with it, you have the final say. If it involved the Bai family, how could she deal with it? Alright, she could deal with the people in the Wangfu. The real culprit could be casually investigated. But the people inside, who was the traitor, it must be clear. No matter what the reason was, they must be severely punished. Jingwan firmly believed that they would be able to find out the truth. What's next? What should we do? I have already let people temporarily seal the farmstead. Today we invited people to race horses. What else can we do? Li Hongyuan said unconcernedly. Jingwan was helpless. The person who died is your cousin. Continuing the horse race, wasn't that poking at someone's lung? So what? Don't talk about the cousin who is 2 or 3 levels apart. Even if it's a blood brother, Ben Wang will still do the same. It can't be helped if he is not pleasing to the eye. In any case, not many people find Ben Wang pleasing to the eye. Alright, as long as you are happy. Horse race, continue the horse race. In any case, there was already a plan to deal with this matter. In the end, a certain person would not have anything to do, so there was no need to worry. As for Bai Gongzi, who was most likely to die in vain, because he became the only son of Scholar Bai, his value was quite big and he became an unlucky person. Jingwan laughed at herself in her heart. At the foot of the Son of Heaven, there were open struggles and covert struggles for the throne. There were also the ups and downs in each of the noble families and courtyards. Who knew how many people died in vain? Jingwan sorted out her emotions, stood up, and gave 2 orders to the people around her. Soon, everyone in the farmstead got the news that the tiger came out and a life was lost. This matter was basically known to everyone. Originally, everyone was in a state of panic. They thought that Jin Qinhuang and Jin Qinhuang Fei would send the guests off. They didn't think that they would be so careless and actually want to continue the horse race. Perhaps, it was not careless but cold-blooded and did not take human life seriously. However, there were also some people who felt that Jin Qinhuang was secretly detaining them in the farmstead. It was just that he was really afraid, or it was for some purpose. Some people made a ruckus and wanted to leave the farmstead and return to the capital. However, the person they wanted to arm wrestle with was the living king of hell. If it was another person, perhaps they could still win. But it was the living king of hell. If they didn't officially arm wrestle, they would have to admit defeat. Therefore, they made a ruckus and in the end, they would still be obedient. Li Hongming and the others had another thought. The current Scholar Bai was not only Fu Huang's cousin, but also had been Fu Huang's study companion. They had a close relationship and deep feelings. Above him, there was also a tactful uncle who helped him ascend the throne. There was also that biological mother, who had already passed away. 3 layers of friendship superimposed on top of each other. How many people could compare? They believed that even Li Hongyuan would certainly understand the power of this. Thus, how could Li Hongyuan not be arrogant and impatient? Was he certain that Fu Huang would not do anything to him? Or was there something that they didn't know? Jin Qinhuang wanted to continue the horse race, so everyone could only go to the arena. It was clearly the same, but the base price of the bet was even higher, so it should be more exciting. However, most people couldn't raise their spirits. Perhaps it was because of the fear of the beast. This tiger was dead, but who knew if other beasts would appear? Or perhaps it was because they were thinking about the matter itself and didn't have the heart to think about anything else. It was just that these things had a smaller impact on the children, and their attention was also easier to divert. Therefore, it was only the second round, but they were already dancing and cheering. Perhaps because of their influence, the atmosphere gradually became more enthusiastic. When the Bai family received the news, Bai Gongzi's biological mother directly fainted. When she finally woke up, she hurriedly informed Scholar Bai, and then rushed to Li Hongyuan's manor. Scholar Bai also arrived at about the same time, wearing his official robe. Hearing the deafening cheers and extremely enthusiastic cheers, Scholar Bai and his wife's eyes instantly turned red. Their hearts were filled with hatred, and their eyes were about to split open. Their only son was gone, but these people still acted as if nothing had happened, and played so happily. Master, master. Bai Gongzi's biological mother cried until her liver and intestines were cut to pieces, and she almost didn't want to live. Madam, rest assured. No matter who it is, I will definitely seek justice for my son. Scholar Bai gnashed his teeth, and it seemed that he would absolutely not let this matter go. When Li Hongyuan got the news, he still gave face and personally went to see him. Bai Xian was usually very tactful. He was very respectful to these princes. He did not treat them differently. However, when he saw Li Hongyuan, he did not have the slightest trace of his usual tactfulness. Li Hongyuan was a true life and death enemy. What kind of person was Li Hongyuan? Basically, he was not the kind of person to greet people with a smiling face. Naturally, he would not speak nicely to people who were angry at him. If it were not for the fact that his uncle's only son died in his manor, and he was more or less responsible for it, it would be strange that he would talk to him. If it were someone else, even if it was his responsibility, he would not expect him to do anything. When Scholar Bai saw Li Hongyuan's indifferent face, his anger and hatred in his heart jumped up, and he no longer concealed his feelings in his heart. Your Highness, aren't you afraid of retribution for acting like this? Li Hongyuan looked at Scholar Bai, and his posture was casual and calm. Your son was not killed by me. Why should I be afraid of retribution? You and your father are not responsible for today's ending, right? Not only do you want benefits, but you also want fame. Because you're too good at everything. You've won Imperial Father's favor. If you want to deal with this prince, you won't be able to do it under normal circumstances. Who better than using your Bai family as a raft? As long as something happens to your Bai family, it will erode Imperial Father's good impression of you. Even if you use the Bai family to frame this prince, it will not shake this prince's foundation. Who would touch your Bai family for no reason? Don't you people pay attention to the middle ground? Since you have done things to the extreme, you should have some awareness. Scholar Bai's teeth chattered. He really wanted to eat Li Hongyuan alive. Li Hongyuan sneered. Come, take Scholar Bai to see his son. Scholar Bai, please do as you please. This prince will not accompany you. After saying that, he directly flicked his sleeves and left. Scholar Bai had lost half of his mind because of the pain of losing his son. Now he was stimulated by Li Hongyuan, and he was going crazy. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he was a malicious spirit that had sworn to take revenge. Li Hongyuan, Li Hongyuan. He would not let the real culprit go, and Li Hongyuan would definitely not let him go either. To trample and abuse others so casually, what right did he have? What right did he have? Seeing her son's bloody body, Scholar Bai's wife directly fainted. Scholar Bai also felt dizzy. He fiercely bit his tongue and forced it to bleed. Only then did he manage to stay awake. The coroner did not find the result of the autopsy. Master Bai's body was directly taken away, which was expected. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/12081707. HTML. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile edition website, mbicken.com. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.